mind, love. What a tale my thoughts could tell. Just like an old time movie about a ghost and a wishing well. In the castle dark or a fortress strong with chains upon my feet, you know that ghost is me. And I will never be set free as long as I'm a ghost you can see. If I could read your mind, love, what a tale your thoughts would tell. Just like a paperback novel, the kind the drugstore sells. When you reach the part where the heartache comes, the hero would be me. But heroes often fail. You won't read that book again because the end is just too hard to take. I walk away like a movie star who gets burned in a three-way script. Enter number 2. Movie queen to play the scene of bringing all the good things out in me. But for now, love, let's get real. I never knew I could feel this way, and I've got to say that I just don't get it. I don't know where we went wrong, but the feeling's gone, and I just can't get it back. If you could read my mind, love, what a tale my thoughts would tell. Just like an old time movie about a ghost and wishing well. In the castle dark or a fortress strong with chains upon my feet, the story always ends. If you read between the lines, you know that I'm just trying to understand the feelings that you have. I never knew I could feel this way, and I've got to say that I just don't get it. I don't know where we went wrong, but the feeling's gone, and I just can't get it back. A hungry feeling came o'er me stealing, and the mice were squealing in my prison cell, and the old triangle went jingle jangle along the banks of the Royal Canal to begin the morning. The screws were bowling. Get up, you buzzy, and clean up yourself. And the old triangle went jingle jangle all along the banks of the Royal Canal. Of a fine spring morning, the lag lay dreaming, the seagulls wheeling high above the wall, and the old triangle went jingle jangle all along the banks of the Royal. The screw was peeping, the lad was sleeping, while he lay weeping for his girl's sad. And the old triangle went jingle jangle all along the banks of the Royal. The wind was rising, the day declining, as I lay pining in my prison cell. And the old triangle went jingle jangle all along the banks of the Royal in the female prison, there were 75 women, and amongst them now, I wish I could tell. And the old triangle went jingle jangle all along the banks of the Royal The day was dying, the wind was sighing as I lay crying in my prison cell. And the old triangle and jingle bloody jangle all along the banks of the Royal Canal, all along the banks of the Royal Canal. candle warm before the afternoon beneath. My heart and lute are all the store that I can give to thee. A lute whose gentle song reveals the soul of full well, and better for a heart that feels much more than a lute can tell. Though love and song may fail, alas, to keep life's clouds away, at least we'll make them light and fast until they stay. And even if care at moments flings a discord o'er life's happy strain, oh, let love but gently touch the strings, low and sweet again. Oh, let love but gently touch the strings, low and sweet again. Greetings. Greetings, greetings. 3 in a row there again. I'm getting too used to that, right? Keep it short though. The last one was short, usual. My Heart and Lute, more appropriate now than ever. That's why I sort of keep singing it as well. If you haven't come to My Heart and Lute, you will. Ultimately, you have to. I can't see how you cannot, you know. Been pointing at it from all directions, and yeah, the same story, the same clues, same hints are sort of put forth to you from all directions. More specifically via Alice in Wonderland in a concentrated direction. But yeah, you will come to My Heart and Lute, and I guess you will understand the significance of it as I do. And once again, earth, heart, you take the H, move it to the back, you have my earth. And lute backwards. First of all, lute is a stringed instrument. You know, so you're talking about frequency, vibration. We've been led up to this all along. But lute backwards, we've also been led up to reading words backwards and looking for the significance there. This is via Alice in Wonderland, in case you're not certain, or Alice through Looking Glass more specifically. But yeah, lute backwards is Itul, E-T-U-L. Itul is star, as it's tying in with a sort of frequency instrument in terms of the lute. But then it's telling us that when we look at the stars, we are looking at something associated with frequency. This is one of the clues, but yeah, this is where we're pointed to. And you find out it's by Thomas More, Thom, Behemoth, so it's all connected. Thomas More talked about a utopia, and he was also said to have been beheaded. He didn't exist. Thomas More didn't exist. Get that out of your brain. King Henry VIII didn't exist. You know, so King Henry VIII, he was charged with beheading Thomas More, this man for whole seasons. So anyone who knows anything about Thomas More will get that joke there. But yeah, literally a man for all seasons, you know, who was persecuted. And before he died, he popped out his idea of utopia anyway. Again, it's all a storytelling. The man never existed. So if you take it in a literal sense, you're absolutely lost. Simple as that. Can't give life to something that has no existence. Like Jade Tenniel said, when he objected to the wasp in the wig. It's all nonsense, like, but this is according to the script. Jay Tenniel, the illustrator for Alice Through the Looking Glass and Alice in Wonderland, he said one of the reasons he rejected the wasp in the wig is that it has no appliance to art, meaning that okay, it has a reality of its own. It's a reality. You can only imitate reality via art. So whereas something has a reality of its own, which cannot be imitated, up to, of course, and including especially ourselves. So when you realize these sort of hidden instructions, if you will, they're telling you that this is a lesson. This is the true and the real lesson to be learned. And if you've been paying attention, then you will have come this far. We have been paying attention somewhat. I suppose it's getting serious, like in one sense, it's really getting serious for the individual. And there are more sort of booby traps in one sense than ever. But it is getting serious for the individual because we need to start making decisions. You need to start sort of deciding where you're at, what's starting to make sense here, what isn't. And if you don't go there, well, I don't think there's any point in you haven't come this far. That's ultimately what I think. You can, like, not that we know anything about anybody else, but like the vast majority, we can remain. Can you remain purposefully oblivious to all of this? Can you pretend to sort of forget? For instance, could you become a flat earther, but just not bring it up amongst friends or family because that every other time you try to spread the truth and try to get people to think for themselves, it's always led to you being called a spastic, a dodo. I don't mind being called a dodo because je suis dodo. So, but yeah, so, is this a satisfactory position for you to see out the rest of your days? If you do that with the biggest of issues, you'll surely do it with smaller issues, so you push everything back to the back. You live your own personal life within your own brain, and you put on a facade or a mask to meet the masks of a different type or a different sort that you do meet. Plenty of masks around, right? We know there's masks in real life. When you ask your neighbor how you doing and they tell you I'm grand, how you? They're not grand. They're just saying they're grand because that's just the easier way of putting it. But deeper down, we all know that that's not much to the story, right? This is in real life encounters. Not to mind encounters over the internet. What do you know about me? Do you know about anyone else? If you're sitting on your own, listen to this, the chances are, if you're either living on your own, you're in a different room than the rest of your family or your wife or husband. But yeah, there's definitely little interaction going on in reality. And you feel bad about that in a sense as well. But in another sense, you sort of come to understand that this is the way it is. And now you must deal with this new reality that's presented to you. What you might want to understand is this reality has always been in place. You're just coming upon it now. So it's like, in one sense, you entering a jungle. You had no idea that the jungle is, you're lost or whatever, and down the river, and you're going wherever you need to go just to get there because you're lost. And you need to find a way out of it. So you're entering a whole new reality, which has a reality of its own, but it's a completely strange reality to your previous reality. So it can't be said that this reality doesn't exist. I'm just entering upon it now and almost creating it. And that can be said to be true in one sense because everything's about the individual and their experiences and how they relate these external experiences to themselves. In other words, how to describe what I'm going through here when I sit here and talk. Is this real? Is this true? Who knows? The only person that can possibly have a chance of answering that is me, myself. Now, when I say me, you can ask the same question yourself. Are you really sitting there listening to this guy talking about it? Is he really sitting there listening to himself? you know, and that could be sort of circular. And I could ask, if you were really sitting there asking yourself, was he really sitting there asking himself? Were you really sitting there asking yourself, was he really himself? You know, and if that was your answer to me, my retort would be, well, that's fair enough, but am I really here sitting here asking myself, am I really here sitting here asking myself, are you really there sitting there asking yourself, am I really here asking myself, are you really there asking yourself, am I really here asking myself, am I really here? So I put that back in your court for a response. But the ultimate point is the same. What is this reality we are in? And just like lost and heading into a desert or a jungle area, there's a reality to this. Our own personal slice of reality or sphere of reality is entering a new reality. So we have to incorporate this new reality into our reality. In one sense, it can't be said to not exist. It has a definitive existence, but that realization only comes into reckoning when, there's an intersection. That's the best we can hope to say in this existence of ours, this limited sort of state we're in. And the one thing about all of these disparate and separate and dislodged realities, waylaid realities actually, is that ultimately it all sort of comes in on a focal point. It all hones in. So even if there's a billion of us, even if there's 20 billion, you name it, it doesn't matter, numbers are not important. There's 20 billion different paths, different roads. Everyone ultimately, like the A, that's what happens. All these roads intersect, not intersect, they're parallel roads. You can see certain people, you can extend your sort of vision so far, depending on, your own conditions on your own road, whether it's foggy, beautifully clear, straight, and narrow, or bumpy and wide. But you have a certain sort of visibility and certain interaction with other roads. But ultimately you're on your own pathway. But eventually, all of these parallel roads will travel and converge upon a single point, which is the apex, which ultimately is at the top of your head. It's what it's telling you all the time, as well as an external story, which we can't relate to. We can relate to somewhat, only via memory, because right now I'm here back in my isolated state, and it's only just me and a piece of computer here, a piece of whatever, piece of technology which allows me to communicate. And I understand, I take it on trust. Can't prove it. I can't say that I would swear to it, even though based on every other experience, this is going live and there are people who are hearing this right now. But again, it's going on trust. I can't prove that. So this is back to your sort of natural state and asking questions, trying to make sense of things. You never know where the answer is going to come from. You never know where the answer is going to come from. You never know where you might get nudged or bumped in a certain direction. And that could be the saving of you. It could be the making of your masterpiece, the picture you created in your mind of life, the universe, reality, everything. So you never know that. That's why you have to sort of step back, always remain non-judgmental when you can, and appreciate that your reality is completely separate from everyone else's reality, most especially and more so once you get to flat Earth. Chances are you've come here via other sort of conspiracy realizations, whatever level that might be. You can settle, well, all around is the truth. So if you settle halfway, I should think there's an onus on people who can sort of empathize with your pathway, as it will coincide with their own pathway a lot, to tell you that, listen, you're still, possibly, you have to bear this in mind, you're still, or I believe you are still halfway there. So, for instance, Judy Wood, or something like that on 9/11. People get stuck on Judy Wood. Fuck's sake. That's how the song came to me. It's just that phrase rolls off the tongue, and now that I've said it, I'm going to have to play it, right? Okay, I'll do that. So I won't do that. Stuck on Judy Wood. Got a feeling down deep in my basement, all is not as it should be. Guess I'm on my way. I needed no plane, no thermite for my memories, no matchstick thermonuclear bombs blowing out of my brain. I guess I'm on my way, thanks to some views from space. On Judy Wood, been a clown too long for Shaq and Jones, and I love it, that's your food. I guess I'm on my way. It's not hard to see how a conditioned audience mistook the movie for reality. Me, I'm on my way. To some views from space. Oh, I'm leaving at close to the speed of free fall. This association is running down my backbone. To melt into my own footprint, there's what I'm destined for. Next time, dear Judy, won't they just let me hang on to my floor? I'm stuck on Judy Wood. Got a feeling down deep in my basement, all is not as it should be. I guess I'm on my way. I needed no planes, no thermite for my members, no matchstick thermonuclear bombs blowing out my face. I guess I'm on my way, thanks to some views from space. Yes, I'm on my way, thanks to some views from space. Somebody call 911. Somebody call 911. Somebody call 911. Somebody call it 911. Okay, that was a by the way there, just for mentioning that phrase, stuck on Judy Wood. Yeah, there's an onus on me. In one sense, in a real sense, you know, in a real sense, if I've sort of made my way to Judy Wood and realized the sort of role she's playing, or he, there's another transgender issue going on there, and I think it's a sort of clarified transgender thing as well. Judy Wood is another actor. The name indicates as much. The whole story is yeah, weaved and fashioned around a greater theme. This is the point of view, and this is the point about, you know, your sphere of reality entering a new reality. When you're making your way through that jungle, and suddenly you come across, I don't know, it doesn't matter what it is, a local native tribe can't speak your own language. So then you pull up, you realize there's no danger to your life. Then you try and interact in whatever way you can and allow this new confused reality to enter your reality. And your only hope is trying to make some sense. They might guide you on a different way then. And then, you know, this is how you sort of sail through the seas of realization, I guess. You carry your eyes with you everywhere. But yeah, when all you're doing is encounter this tribe, well, if you don't know anything about this tribe, you're going to assume the best, right? You're not going to know what else to assume, because if you assume the worst, then you're dead meat, you're chopped liver. So this is the point. We assume everyone we meet at the gate is honest and is above board, up until the point where we realize and we know that they're not. So then we've got to move on. We can spend our time trying to understand, trying to sort of recognize, relate to, realize why these people are playing these deceptive roles, because that's all it can be described as, a deceptive role, somebody who's not being completely above board and honest with you. Yeah, we can spend our time doing that, but we can also realize that we needn't spend too much time doing that, because there's a greater reality that you're sort of breaking into that had a pre-existence before you arrived. So this is the idea of this greater story that's going on, being told, unfolding. And well, that's where my heart and lute comes into it. So that was the third song. So Judy Wood, Stuck on Judy, was just a bite away. Definitely thinking about putting some keyboards to that, bit of proper vocals, and what did I say? Stuck on Judy? Oh yeah, that was the point. That was the point. Ode to the Tower, ode to the twins, actually. So it was an ode, as opposed to an ODE. It's an OWED, an ode to the twins. You know, because they were just they were just in the prime of their lives, and suddenly they were unbirthed, if you will, which is. I chose that term appropriately. I think it's representative, and I think in reality, that's actually what happened. The two twin towers, pre-emptied. Most of the floors were gone. There's probably a few floors still in there. We know that the Windows of the World, interesting name itself, Windows of the World, the restaurant, was in operation. But for the most part, everything else was empty. There's evidence. This is where Aaron Dover came in like a hurricane and put out his stuff and then left in his blaze of glory. And Aaron Dover is associated with the acting troupe. Well, then you need to look a bit deeper. Even all you have to do is look back. Just go in and type in Aaron Dover eulogy. There's this character comes up. Talking about the circumstances of Aaron Dover's death. I didn't even bother too much with it, gone beyond it, but talking about the circumstances of Aaron Dover's death, her relation to him, and just generally what was going on. I don't even know beyond that, but I left it behind when I'm looking at a man in a dress. I'm looking at a man in a fucking dress. You know, I'm looking at a man in a dress. Actually, I'm going to get that up now just to show you I'm not fucking loopers, because what will we type in there? Aaron Dover, flat earth, Aaron Dover, man in dress. Aaron Dover eulogy, right? Man in dress. No, I'd probably leave man in dress out of it. A-R-O-N. Aaron Dover eulogy, E-U-L-G-Y. I know it straight away when it comes up. The picture comes up. Maybe I'll have to find out. It's not sort of coming up immediately. Maybe it's part of. Yeah, there's a few videos coming up. They're close enough. Let me share my screen here. Let me share my screen briefly just to This one. So that's all I typed in. Arendover eulogy. So just this is how it works as well, out of interest. Okay, sorry. Jamie Brown, if you're listening, look at that. I didn't realize he was dead at 42. Get the hell. Come on, Jamie. That's to you specifically, Jamie. Arendover dead at 42. Who else will get that? Who else will get the significance of that particular chosen date? I don't know. I certainly do anyway. 42 isn't the answer, remember. It's in gematria. You always knock off the 0. You can't knock off the 0. Without the 0, the 8 would be nothing, right? So you can't knock off the 0. So as everything is reversed, we add the 0, and then we get the answer to the ultimate question of life, the universe, and everything. 420. 420. So that Arendover here died. That's brilliant. Like, I'm going to make a note of that. That Arendover died here at 42 is very significant. And it just ties in. No, Arendover, the character, might have died, but the man who played the character lives on, surely. You know, John Wayne in one of his, I was going to say Patrick Swayze in one of his movies, Ghost, he died. And, you know, but the man didn't die. But then the man was supposed to have died later on, right? But I say he didn't die either. That's more nonsense. You know, where does the theater, the drama begin and end? And it's all drama. Give me a bit of it. Arendover is telling us there. And if you look at it, Jamie, Arendover, because there's a lie associated with it, there's no H, right? But we have the AD. I hope you're listening, Jamie, because we were just talking about this earlier on, and how the ADH is the code. It's the template, the blueprint for all letters, all numbers, all signs, really, all sigils are made up of aspects of the ADH, or more accurately, just the H. I said the H overlaying a theta, but if you think about the H itself, yeah, if you bring the tops and the bottoms together, you can craft a theta out of it. So they're one and the same, but ultimately that's what ADH represents. When you do the template of an A, overlapping an inverted A, H in the middle, and surrounded by a circle with a line through the center, which is the theta, but it also represents a D reflected, then you have the template for all numbers and letters and signs and symbols. And depending on which aspect they are missing, this will reflect in the word itself and its core meaning. So Arendover here, we have the A and the D. Dead at 42, get the heck. I didn't realize that. Dead at 42. But yeah, we're missing the H. So there's a core deception involved here, a part of construct. That's the better way to put it. Same when you find in any significant words, when you find the G. So think about thought, T-H-O-T-H. And then think about thought, T-H-O-U-G-H-T. So you have this U-G inserted. Anywhere you see the G, like in God, for instance, and the G equates to the L, right? The G is the 7th letter. It's an imposer in terms of the English alphabet, according to the story. We're told this purposefully. So it's the 7th letter. If you look at an L is a 7 when inverted and mirrored. So this is telling you the G and the L are equatable, and the L, what is L? L, the letter, or E-L, L? Well, L is time. Time came about, as we experience it, via a destruction of an old way. And yeah, in one sense, time is the enemy. Saturn, you know, was associated with L. This is just about time, literally time, the eater of children. This is time, which is an artificial, a false construct. You know, time only came into existence being as we know it, as that's all we know. Time only came into existence being, I say, 419 years ago. It'll be 420 years ago next year, 2018. Why 420? Well, it'll be 420 years, 2018 to 1598, when the dodo was discovered. So this is why the dodo? Well, the dodo never existed, so we were fed a story which was representative of something different. So it encoded within the story of the dodo, which didn't exist, is a core truth. And who might be telling us this truth? Why would someone leave these clues first? Well, that's a different question. That the clues are there is indisputable at this stage to me, and hopefully to many people who are listening as well. I know I'm not the best in terms of coherently putting across a bunch of ideas, but that's not what we're about here. That's definitely not what I'm about here. I think I could easily do that, but that's not what we're about here, you know. So once we see that, or once we understand, or once we at least bear in mind the possibility that this is what we're dealing with, it's sort of like a battleground that we're put into, but it's there for us to unravel. There's a greater significance to us, a greater significance to the story we've been told. Although we're learning to read, that's a better way of putting it. We're learning to read this story. Well, then we have to sort of adapt and adjust appropriately. So yeah, there you go, Jamie. Aaron Dover, dead at 42. So we have the AD, Aaron Dover, AD. That's like Adam, A4. Adam, A4, that's the same with you. I mentioned that with you. Your paper explanator, A4 paper, yeah. A4 is AD. I'm missing the H. And the H must necessarily be missing in one sense because we know we're dealing with a fabrication, a construct, right? So it cannot possibly contain the whole because the truth is missing. I think this is generally the idea, but the only reason I brought this up was because I mentioned Judy Wood and I mentioned Aaron Dover and his story. And is it here? Oh, it might be here now. Hang on. There was, yeah, this woman in a dress came on and started talking about, let's wait, maybe this one here. Look at this, Rob Alpha Nostrum. That's an interesting name, isn't it? Maybe it's this one here. Let me just roughly go through this, if it's a man in a dress.
But Aaron, George Morris tragically
died whilst
abroad on the 16th of
maybe it'll be in one of his own videos. Let me just check that briefly. Again, all these clues are just to let you know, hang on, snap out of this here, kid. Snap out of it. Your chain has been yanked, and they're letting you know that there's something not quite right about all of this. So you have to understand that there's a greater picture. Look at this picture of the floors here, 9/11. Since came to this realization, the whole fucking thing was built without many floors. But this guy comes out, Aaron Dover, he comes out in about 2000. When I saw it anyway, he's no floors in 9/11. It was about 2016. And I left a message under one of his videos. I said, good stuff, man. You do realize that Let's Roll Forums dealt with all of this in 2010, 2011. Up to this day, the thread is still going on, the research thread. And he came on and sort of, what do I mean? What do you mean? Where is this? Give me a link to this. It was really, you know, via the text, you could tell that he was looking for something definitive, some proof before he relinquishes his thunder. Someone stole his thunder. He doesn't want to let it go easily. I said, man, this is fucking gone back 7 years ago anyway. And there's lots of radio shows done. There was so much research done. They detailed and listed. And I mean, that's what I'm saying. I could fill shows educating most of the people on here with just stuff that, you know, I know a lot of people, genuine, honest people, will be coming across for the first time, but it's still stuff that it's just a sort of minor consideration in my own brain. But I could spend the hangout not wowing people, but just in the sense that all this research has been done, and you know, no floors on 9/11. That's clear enough to me now. So this all goes back to what I was talking about regarding unbirthing, and those towers, in a real sense, were unbirthed. They were built that way. All the floors were taken away, or they were built without many of the floors, and you have a symbolic representation in terms of the presentation we were given. And we mistook for reality, which is, I said, it's not hard to see how a conditioned audience mistook a movie for reality. Yeah, we've conditioned all our lives. Towering Inferno, we've all seen that, right? Growing up, that made a big impact. A big impact in one sense. As a growing child, you know, you're looking at the television, 6, 7 years of age, and next minute this dramatic representation of this foreign world, you know, is presented. So all of these notions are put into our brain via these different delivery methods. So when the event itself arrives, then we're sort of prepared for it in one sense. You know, these possibilities have been presented to us via the monolith, if you will, the TV screen, that place that allows you into or to entertain, isn't it good that you entertain that different reality, as opposed to that different reality being the television or the movie screen entertaining you. You entertain it, and this is the ultimate idea. But yeah, that those two towers came down in one piece below the ground. They dug a big fucking hole. The towers came down in one piece, and they were dismantled below ground. I say below ground as a possibility that they sort of, thinking in my own brain, as they go down, they can sort of fold into one another like a Russian doll, but on a certain point. That's a possibility. Otherwise, they'd have to obviously dig a hole equally deep as the towers were high, which was pretty fucking high, 110 floors each tower, and that seems excessive. But I think this is a greater ritual that's in progress here in place. So there's nothing that's impossible, and there's nothing that can't be done or can't be entertained again when you're sort of looking at this from a bigger aspect, and from a newer aspect as well. You know, when especially you come to flat Earth. But yeah, that's how I ended up in Arendover. And the one thing you know about his, oh yeah, that's where I'm at. Yeah, I think, you know, I think the ride of your life, I think someone might have done it. I think I would have done it, right? Possibly. You're safe as houses. So imagine you were up at the top, the very fucking top, 110th floor, and you knew about all the stuff. Everything was cleared out. There was no one in those buildings from the get-go, or very few from the get-go. There was people in there. They were all cleared out after the fake 1993 bombing. So that allowed them to clear out the rest of the occupants, put in ghost companies, leave a few floors in there to give the illusion, but for the most part the buildings were emptied, and they were up to the point of the day itself being emptied. And yeah, we were always meant to know this as well. We're always meant to know this, you know, so we're always meant to work out this puzzle. But I can imagine somebody going, fuck it, put me up there. I'm going up myself anyway. My job is in a position of authority. I'm going to fucking ride that down. So imagine that, like an elevator, the twin tower. They blow out the holes in the basement, right? There's just massive sort of wedges, I suppose, you know, to hold the whole thing in place, and always with this descent in mind. So they blow out those catches, and the whole building comes down at a controlled rate. And if you think about the outside structure to it, it's ideal. It's like almost like a railing, you know what I mean? So if you line up the proper sort of pulley system, or you know, you could easily see the whole thing coming down like a dummy elevator, that sort of thing. Absolutely perfectly controlled. And once it got, as I said, if they didn't plan for it to sort of scrunch up like a concertina, which I don't think they probably could do that, considering the core center as we're given the idea. But yeah, then it has to be equally below ground as it is above ground. And when you look at what most people will say, well, where's the fucking rubble? So where is it? That's where Judy Wood comes into it, right? Well, it's a fucking beam from space. The beam from space is after disintegrating everything. So you're happy, you're good with that? Okay, the beam from space. Well, Dr. Judy, I have to call you doctor, do I? Okay, fair enough. Oh, well, Dr. Judy, I mean, I've been through every other possibility. So beams from space was the only thing that accounts for this lack of rubble and all of the different effects we see around us, you know, and from the collapse itself to the tales of, you know, affected bystanders, etc. Yeah, so I'm going to go with you, Dr. Judy Wood. No, Dr. Judy Wood. Okay, I'm going to go with you. So you see, if we take everything as bona fide above board, this is where Leeds must end up, because there was no rubble, right? If there was 110 floors, then you'd have a 110-story pancake. This is just a floor pan filled with concrete. It's incompressible almost, unless it was blown out from all levels. But when you have 110 floors, this is just going to pancake 110 floors high. That didn't happen. We didn't see that, so we can rule that out. Why didn't that happen? Well, people were free to go down to New York, and there was no rubble pile. The first thing Rudy Giuliani felt was his obligation to do was to come on TV the next morning and not talk about the 3,000 or potentially 50. How many people? You know, we didn't know how many people were stuck underneath the rubble. He wasn't talking about that. He wasn't not doing interviews, you know, and being fucking up to his neck, even with his hands dirty, to try and save people, you know, do his very best, understanding that maybe there's a potential for thousands of people to be alive beneath this. You'd be thinking to yourself, well, okay, everything came down. Where is everything? What's going on? But you'd be still thinking to yourself, well, the people in the lower floors must have had a greater chance of survival, you know, so we have to keep going. No, he didn't talk about this sort of stuff. He came along and talked about the lack of rubble and how, you see the, let me do a Jamie on it. Well, the building, I won't be able to, how would American, the building, no, I won't do that, because that'd be just a general American accent. Whereas, the buildings came down and each floor pancaked upon the next floor, and that accounts for the lack of rubble. We're calling all to arms, and we're going to find any survivors, and we're going to beat this thing. But yeah, there's no rubble, primarily because your pancake collapsed. Anyway, that was terrible. But a bit of time, I could do a better impression. But that's what he did. He came on television, talked about that. He was explaining in earnest why there was no rubble, why there was no 110 stories stacked up. Again, take a step back. We can understand that in reality, the way a magic trick is pulled off is by fooling most of the people most of the time. You'll always get people who will be able to see through the trick because they'll be looking at more than one place at one time. So, like when you're reversing into a really tight spot, right? Your eyes are constantly going forward and backwards, and you're balancing actions at every instant almost. So yeah, when these magic tricks are being performed, they rely upon the opposite of that: a focused, engrossed observer or audience member. And when you do that, then you take the person's mind off the ball. And one thing they did do with the shock value of 9/11, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go on to 9/11, I want to go on to it, but here's a perfect picture. Look at that picture himself. The only point I said about Aaron Dover, yeah, I told him all this. This stuff was done fucking years ago, man. Why? I mean, it's no secret. There's loads of radio shows done. Phil Jahan and Larry McWilliams on Let's Roll for him, and excellent thread. I mean, so I could just get that thread up, go through it, and keep and inform you, educate you all night if you hadn't been down this path. But again, that's all back from 2010, 11, 12, all the way up, I guess, in sort of trickling down manner to this day. But I'm sure it's going to be still new to people, which is, you've got to get beyond that. It's only when you get beyond that that you realize that the greater significance is in what's been presented to us symbolically. If you look, another one for you, Jamie. If you look at, let me bring it up actually. World trade. bring up the picture. Talking about this earlier on, Jamie, this is what all comes back to. Look at it now. Look. Here you go. Look at how you have the upside down triangles in a unified whole. So it doesn't matter which way you look at it, from above or below, you have these inverted upside down triangles in a sort of a combination that is unified. I'm trying to think, we have two X's there, Jamie, because we have four sides, right? So yeah, again, this perfect balance and sublime balance almost. And this is what's happened. The division is over. Now we have the unification. And look at this. Doesn't it look like a ray gun? This is primarily what these things are. These are ray guns. These are focusing. And this is what I think the purpose of this is first. To focus energy, transmit it, and keep back, keep, how would you put it, repel the barrier, you know, strengthen the barrier that it expands and holds back the waters beyond. So this is the way I look upon this tower here. And yeah, the only reason I pointed it out, just me and Jamie were talking about the upside down arrows. And if you think about the upside down arrow there, or the arrow pointing upwards, well, you have an 11, right? You have an 11 just collapsed in upon itself. But it's all based on the H. And 11 is a H without that cross bar, you know, that unifying necessary piece. And that's the trident. We have three aspects. Ultimately, we are all, we are divine in nature. I mean, what else, how else can you put it? I mean, we are of greater stuff. And whether this is all a game that we've become divided, or whether this is foisted upon us, yeah, our true natures still remain with us. And I guess we get to find out everything afterwards, but we can find it out beforehand as well. And I think indeed many people are in possession of greater truth, and this might contribute towards this greater game that's going on, and all the actors we see around us. It's easy to sort of, and a knee-jerk reaction, maybe necessarily you have to go through it as well. I know this person is lying to me. I know this person is not above board. I have to hate them now because they must be bored. They must be doing all of this for their own selfish purposes and working towards a greater new world order against reality. They're the workers for my enemies, this sort of thing, you know what I mean? So you can generate all of this sort of strong emotion, but I also here encourage you sort of a step back, because we don't know. You don't know. The best you can do is just recognize and identify when somebody is playing a part, and make that known. You have to make that known if you're an honest investigator. You have to make it known. That's as simple as that, because we've come from the most massive of lies, the most encompassing of deceptions. So the one thing we hope for when we enter the flat earth arena is that we're like-minded people who have the same, come from similar places, have been overawed almost by just the scale of the deception, and have found a safe house in terms of like-minded people who at least won't immediately jump out and call you a retard, or write you off as being an obnoxious nutter for some of the thoughts you express, which are pretty basic sort of stuff to you, bread and butter stuff to you, you know what I mean? It doesn't take a rocket fucking scientist to work out that I don't know, the girl with the bandage on the 7/7 bombing is an actress, you know, and that the whole fucking thing is a stage presentation, a staged presentation. It doesn't take a genius to work that out. So to be called a fucking moron for just pointing out these things is sort of a doubly injurious, right? But that's just for Jamie there. Jamie again. Remember, I was writing it earlier on. I spoke about it yesterday on my own hangout. Here we have unification of the male and female aspects. Again, deeper layer is just the H. It's the H, collapsed H. It's the difference between male and female. The H collapses at the top for male, and at the bottom for female. We have a sort of I don't know, directionality to our bodies. Everything is connected and in its place. But what we want to do is to focus everything through the heart center, to that null point in the heart center. And once we can do that, we have to sort of ring the bell above and below. So this is what I think what you do via the frequency or the vibration. Be, he, me. So use it be, he, me, th. So what you do is you sort of ring the bell at the top, right? And then everything will reverberate around the heart center. So this is where all roads lead to our heart. And yeah, once we go down that path, then we can I suppose realize a greater story has been told here, and the real story has a real history. It has a real history. We realize that our history is fabricated for the most part. Where are you going to get off on that? Where are you going to say, well, I realize that, let me think, Boston bombing was faked, but they couldn't have faked, I don't know, the Oklahoma bombings, for instance. Why not? Why couldn't they fake that? Oh, well, I mean, they just wouldn't do that, would they? Or wouldn't they now? Is that right? Why do you say that? It's too much, isn't it? I mean, they've already done the Boston bombings. Why did they do that's too much. That's like a bridge too far. You see how ridiculous that reasoning is, but we can understand it from an individual's point of view. It's like, it's a promotion of some cognitive dissonance in a way, cognitive dissonance, because it's an overload, it's information overload, and it's too much up for consideration. But shit. I guess it's a process as well. Yeah, that's the important thing. It's a process. If you're up for the truth, then the truth is, and nothing less will you settle for. And when you think in the right sense, you'll understand that, let's say the Oklahoma bombings and 7/7, you'll go, well, they faked 7/7, but they can't do it. They can't stage freaking Oklahoma. Well, they could, and it's easier, even when you think in the right manner, for them to have staged Oklahoma than it is 7/7, because 7/7 has a predecessor. It's not as if 7/7 was the first staged affair, So, in that sense, it becomes easier for you to recognize that this doesn't begin and end with your entering into this new reality. As I say, make the equation between you lost and making your way through the jungle. Yeah, just life there, or reality there, doesn't just begin with you entering into it. So instead of looking back from now on past episodes and past incidents and events, and build, sort of constantly just pushing yourself in terms of trying to accept the scope and scale of the deception. You can't do that, because even if you accept, let's say, these 4 hoaxes are hoaxes, but the 5th one can't be. I mean, everything can't be a hoax, can it? That's not progressive thinking. What you got to do is go back to the beginning. You decide what the beginning is. Work your way forward. Then, if you realize that something has always been in play, this form of storytelling has always been in play, then it's a lot easier to accept the implications of your thinking, alongside the evidence, of course. So yeah, that's very indicative. The one World Trade Center, and yeah, everything is one, a unified whole. I talked about. Hang on, let me go back to. I didn't find that actually. I didn't find that. That's a great information here, though. That's a great information to consider, but to understand as well that yeah, this is more than just one man. This is just another actor. And if you're surprised, oh yeah, you can be an actor. What's an actor doing in Flat Earth? Fucking Flat Earth is inundated with actors. I'm not finding what I was looking for actually. Should be relatively recently, right? So when did he die? Right, okay, I'm going to just give a little bit more of a search. I could see, that's what I'm saying. But I understood immediately then. The person who was given the eulogy, if you will, video form, is a bloke in a dress. It's a bloke in a dress. I mean, come on. It's a bloke in a dress. So I already have my suspicions regarding Arndover, even though some of his information is very good, excellent, you know, and again, I incorporate that into my thinking. Well, why is some of the information excellent, and why is it quiet on some things? Well, I answer that my own way. No, but I'm not seeing the eulogy is probably the wrong word. If I put in death, that in, that'd be better. And here we go as well. Actually, just now that I have the chance, death. This is why death isn't a bad thing. DEATH. There's your A. Excuse me. There's your A, D, and H. The H up here. There's your A, D, and H. So there's truth and there's beauty in death. And we've, again, just like is the form, we've been scared off of it. If you flip and reverse everything, you become closer to the truth. So there's a different story, a different game going on. Let me type in. Death Hooks comes up as an auto suggest. Could be this one. No, that's Paul Michael Bales. Well, everyone's got to see this. 9/11, no floors, radio mass, hoax fires, but no floors. Yeah, it was all staged. Here we talk about, yeah, I saw this video as well, the lobby, floor 1, then you just make your way up to floor 44, then you make your way up to floor 106 and 107. You know, so this is all old news, but no, I can't find what I'm looking for, which was the person who came out and did a eulogy for, in YouTube video form, for Arndover. Yeah, it was just a bloke in a dress. It was clearer than Theresa May being a bloke in a dress. And then there was all the drama about his channel getting knocked out, Arndover. So that'd bring more attention to what he's trying to tell you. And of course, he focused on 9/11. Well, where the fuck were you 7 years ago, man? You know, where were you when all this stuff was sort of been chiseled out? No. So again, it's all connected, and the 9/11 fakery is more protected than the flat Earth truth. So that tells you something, and I understand why that is now, because 9/11 is, yeah, it's beyond the flat Earth. The flat Earth will just tell us that this is our home, but who are we is the bigger question. So that's why that information has been protected more. But yeah, when it comes to actors, well, it's going to be easy to identify actors now, right? The people who will find you obnoxious or unreasonable for asking basic questions when it comes to investigating the possibility if you're being deceived regarding some of the characters who have been placed front and center for you and for your entertainment regarding flat Earth inquiry, you know. So don't you be afraid to ask those questions, but at the same time, you might be a bit late asking those questions. You know, many characters have been here for a long time. So whatever play, whatever information you're being fed, was ever been put in front of you now, are you sure that's not part of a sort of more detailed script of those who are playing the primary parts? You know, if you're not thinking along those lines, well, you're going to be much more prone to further deception. I think ultimately this is about you not being deceived anymore, you as the individual. The clues are there for us. So, you know, how many people do you know have picked up on Arndover's no floors on 9/11? And again, 7 years later, all the shit has been done to death, really, on Let's Roll forums, clues forums, fakeologist.com. I've left it behind a long time ago. But where's the rest of the people? People are still talking about Judy Wood. I can't believe it. Bob from Globebusters, still talking about Judy Wood. He went through the fakery and then suddenly he's gone back. So Bob accepted 100% completely that we're looking at fake footage here. There's no reality to it. They can put in what they like. They can bring the Marshmallow Man in and have a big shit and on top of the towers, and the towers collapsing at the speed of free fall. You know, so we're after seeing through the fake nature, fabricated nature of the videos, Bob. And now you're going to go back and say, well, the Marshmallow Man had a shit in the towers, like I saw it. Oh, the people who said that was fake video, I found out stuff about them. They're not trustworthy in some senses. So I'm going to go back to saying that the Marshmallow Man took a big shit on the two towers because that's the way I saw it on the television. You know, that's the way it was presented to me, and I'll accept that that's the poos from space. Thanks to some poos from space. No, but you know, this is a sort of an obnoxious position to take, and the reason that position is being taken in the first place, I think, is indicative itself. So I think who isn't playing a role? I don't know. What is a greater role? Like, I have only my own thoughts on it. Yeah, if you're prone to sort of making that judgment, I guess you do your own judging anyway. If you're prone to making that judgment, I would sort of advise take a step back. Don't aim your strong passion towards I don't know, a chimera, and sort of a shadow, you know, nothing tangible, and that's all people are outside of yourself. As I said at the start here, chances are many of us are alone listening to this, you know, because, well, for one, it's not, well, it might be pleasant enough in one sense. We're talking about some specific things that are pertinent to an overall greater picture, but yeah, you'll be asking yourself the same questions as well, right? You have to be. So yeah, there's a greater story that's going on, and whatever picture has been presented, understand there's always layers to everything. So I can't find it. I'm going to have a look for that. Oh, hang on. Lord Stephen Christ chimed in. I'm going to have a look for that, man. But honestly, it's clear as day. Clearer than Theresa May is a man. He's a bloke in drag. And you had this guy coming along talking about Aaron Dover. So Aaron Dover is just another character as well. And characters are ingrained at pretty much every level. I'm going to do Music Man. So you see what I mean? I could just sit here and go, right, read through some of the things on that No Floors on 9/11 thread on Let's Roll Forum, and if you haven't been through it yourself, and if you're still stuck on the likes of, I don't know, Judy Wood or somewhere in between, it'll blow your mind because you hadn't been through it, and I'm just presenting information that's always been there. So I could do that with so many different things, but that's not what this is about here, man. That's not what this is about here. Even just Aaron Dover tonight, dead at 42, that's very significant. What am I doing? This year, how about this year? This is very few that comes up, okay? It's all about Mark Sargent as well. Where's the rest of the music? Okay, not seeing it there now. Okay, I'm gonna have to put you on again. Yeah, I'm sorry, man. I'll keep meaning to do this. it's fake. Free your mind from all that's fake. Maybe then you'll start to feel awake. Oh, sometimes you must turn in order to grow. Oh, sometimes you must fail in order to know. Some lessons in life, the best ones remain. Rocked and defeated in order to gain. Remember you can win in the battle for your soul. Come down by society, broken with technology. Stupid people with smartphones, looking down without your mind control. As a puppet soldier, decide which way you wanna go. We play your divine intent, reach out to beyond the government. Oh, sometimes we must hurt in order to grow. Oh, sometimes you must fail in order to know. Some lessons in life are best learned through pain. Rough and defeated in order to gain. Remember you can win in the battle for your soul. Truth's out there for all to find. Use your senses, don't be blind. Leave your ego at the call. Join the ranks in this information war. Oh, sometimes you must hurt in order to grow. Oh, sometimes you must fail in order to know. The lessons in life, the best ones remain. Rough and defeated in order to gain. Remember you can win in the battle for your soul. I said remember you can win in this battle for your soul. Your soul. What is your soul? Your soul. You have to question all words, right? As I lay me down to sleep, I pray to God my soul to keep. Think about it again, right? God bless your family members then. That's what I was told going to bed. So as I lay me down to sleep, I pray to God. I pray, first of all, pray. You think someone who came up with the word pray, okay, I have a habit of waffling, right? Oh yeah, I'll get back to that. You think the people who come up with the language and made the association, they say, oh, what will we call this? Where we because one came before the other, right, according to the official timeline. So what do we call this? Where we sit down to pay homage to a greater power? How about call it pray? Well, hang on. Pray is when a greater power sort of overcomes and ends the life of, in one sense, takes the life out of a lesser power. So we can't call it that, but we might as well anyway. Yeah, we will. There's no significance whatsoever. There's no relation to it. So let's do it anyway. No, this is not how it works. There's an interconnection between all of these different terms chosen. And yeah, again, if we go back to childhood, that's what I was taught first. As I lay me down to sleep, I pray to God my soul to keep. So if God is not a good power, if God is a construct, That's not good, right? That's not good. If your words have power, it's not the words themselves, it's the intent behind the vibration. The intent behind the vibration. So be, he, me comes into it. Your keyboard tells you to BHUH. Look it up on the diagonal. On the other diagonal is THM, right? THUMB in terms of the numbers, and then we have 8 in terms of the THUMB in terms of the letters, 8 in terms of the number. Well, you can also go back to 4, which is 2 4s are 8. But anyway, yeah, that's telling you that, and you are giving that core. You're encouraged to give that core power, that core intent, that core vibration away to this power that's just introduced to you in all its all as a child. The two things you love as a child, God and Santa, right? They're one and the same. They're one and the same. They're part of the divisory world, and you strip Santa naked. There you have a picture of God, right? A guy in a white beard. Once we realize that we are in a split reality or a duality, a divided state, then we can realize the significance of these representations, I suppose, which is what they are. To take it in a literal sense, we're losing the meaning. Anyone who clings you to the literal, you've got to be aware of. Honestly, this is my true opinion at this stage, because our whole literal reality is anything but what you think. It's all fabricated. It's all part of some grander, I'm not going to say simulation, some grander design. There's some grander purpose, some grander game of play, and we are lost in terms of taking our perceived reality as anything to do with greater reality. It's completely fabricated, up to, including and beyond ancient swathes of time. Now, there's a distinction to be made between everything the way I date and everything pre 1598 and everything post 1598. Then our whole fabricated reality was fed to us. We were given all the facts and figures regarding deep time, deep space, deep mind, right? Deep body. Everything was laid out for us. The truth was known. Pointless you endeavoring towards anything, really, because everything has been explained and answered. When you realize that you are not that everything has been answered in their fake world. Everything has been answered, but answered incorrectly. This is a purposeful lie. Within the real truth, within the real reality, we would have many questions to ask, or should we be exposed to it? But again, lots of stuff is answered as well. We would just be bringing our reality into this unknown realm, and everything would be new to us. So we'd be, actually, in that sense, we'd be innocent, wouldn't we? We'd be purely innocent if we just completely ventured into a new world. All we could do is venture into the very core and find out who you are at core, because everything else is completely new to you. And especially if you're lost and alone and you're in ignorance, you have no control over a situation, which is pretty much what the story is in one sense anyway. As we make our way forward in time into the future, you don't know what's coming tomorrow, right? How many people here now, I'm not going to say here now actually, but how many people here now in general will just take it that tomorrow will be an ordinary day, but it won't be. It'll be either their last day, it'll be the day that their lives change in one form or another, whether it is to be a good or a bad thing. So we have no sort of grasp of the future. So in one sense, within our sphere and bubble of reality, we're moving forward into a great unknown. I say there is a greater context for everything, and there's a grander story to be told. And this is ingrained within the narrative and the false narratives of everything that's presented to us. Let me just read the opening song, and I didn't like the job I did on that. I could have done with a bit more practice, but I do love the song. and I'll probably sing it again um, in a different sense. Uh, but once you open up the Hangout with it, I can't open up it again, right? But let's go through the words because they're very telling as well. If you could read my mind, love, what a tale my thoughts could tell. Just like an old-time movie about a ghost from a wishing well. In a castle dark or a fortress strong with chains upon my feet, you know that ghost is me. And I will never be set free as long as I'm a ghost you can see. Interesting, yeah. Just like an old time movie. If you could read my mind, love, what a tale my thoughts could tell. Um, well, I shouldn't. I already sang it like that's twice now, so I'm not going to read it 3 times. Anyway, if I so I didn't change this to if I could read your mind, love, what a tale your thoughts could tell. Just like a paperback novel, the kind the drugstore sells. When you reach the part where the heartaches come, the hero would be me. Heroes often fail. And you won't read that book again because the ending's just too hard to take. I walk away like a movie star who gets burned in a 3-way script. Enter number 2, a movie queen to play the scene of bringing all the good things out in me. But for now, love, let's be real. I never knew I could feel this way, and I've got to say that I just don't get it. I don't know where we went wrong, but the feeling's gone, and I just can't get it back. If you could read my mind, love, what a tale my thoughts could tell. Just like an old-time movie about a ghost from a wishing well. In a castle dark or a fortress strong with chains upon my feet, the story always ends. And if you read between the lines, you'll know that I'm just trying to understand the feelings that you left. I never thought I could feel this way, and I've got to say that I just don't get it. I don't know where we went wrong, but the feeling's gone, and I just can't get it back. Okay. Well, this is a story in itself, right? So I think we can all relate to that. But what is common throughout the narrative? Gordon Lightfoot, the name of the composer, he's in many great songs. But what the message we are getting across here is the silver screen, the movie, the comparisons we're asked to make between impressions fed us and real life. I often said it. My mother married Elvis. Like I mean, she told me that this is in the days of cinema. Um, Many of us will be able to relate to it. Let's go back further. My mother was born in 1945, so in 1965 she was in her 20s, whatever. Elvis going around shaking his stuff, but in the cinema, um, she saw whatever one of the movies. Let me just think of one of the movies. Blue Suede Shoes or something like not Blue Suede Shoes. Love Me Tender, something like that. Whatever 25 times. So that's not just a matter of you sitting in your room loading or watching it on YouTube 25 times. It's a matter of going, making the effort, getting dressed up, and etc. So when my mother got married, she married Elvis Presley. Chances are my father married someone like Marilyn Monroe. You know what I mean? All of these things that are presented to us via the movie screen, via the paperback novel, the Jackie Collins, all this sort of stuff. I don't mean to pick anything about Jackie Collins. Our sexuality is a massive aspect of all of our lives. I mean, I'm assuming I can't speak for men, but I will speak for women. No, I can't speak for women, but I will speak for men. Yeah, it is a massive aspect. the whole of our lives, and it's I guess it's one of the biggest challenges to overcome. Overcome, right? Is to hang on to that, right? Yeah, don't succumb. Shit. Uh, and again, maybe this is part and parcel of the ultimate solution, the greater solution, to realize um, the potency in our own capabilities, I guess, be it in body, spirit, or mind. And I don't even like using words, because when I use spirit, well, why again? Just like the previous example. So yeah, at a core level, we understand the Holy Spirit, right, and just how poignant, how sublime, how divine it all is. So what are we going to call this stuff here that we have separated via sort of an unhealthy looking process from the fruit of the land? Spirit. Oh, you want to call it spirit? All right, okay. Well, but hang on. This stuff isn't too good, like, because it makes you gawk all over the place. You know, it makes you fucking go crazy. You know, it makes you want to curl up in a ball. I don't know. Yeah. So how can we equate the two? Sure, fuck it. We'll do it anyway. What harm? Sure, fuck it. No. There's a different what do you call it to it? Different connotation to it, and it's as if they know something, right? So again, we have to re-examine every term, but especially terms beginning with G and associated with L. Religion, religion, right? Language, language, language. So again, the L and the G are interchangeable, and it's ultimately, to have a context for it, I did mention it, the L is about time. Saturn is the L. Time came into existence with the destruction of the system that was previously in place. What our abilities were, I think the real language, telecommunication. I don't think that's very difficult to achieve. So something is altered, and this is the reality. All of this language is artificial. We are living in a broken system under a magnetic field, which is about frequency and vibration. We are entities, beings within this reality, I think even an avatar sense, because of course I don't think many flat earthers will believe that when the body dies, like those people who will be sitting there tonight, who knows if even somebody's listening to this, how would I know the course of the events? You know, but everything's going to be fine tomorrow. When everything doesn't turn out to be fine at all, we know it's going to be reality for somebody. So yeah, this is the emergent property of things, and we can appreciate. But anyone who's got to this stage can appreciate that. You know, we have to sort to entertain all manner of possibilities, and this idea about us being our bodies. Again, most flat earthers haven't come to this stage, will have cast that aside. So therefore, there's a greater story going on. And it's within that context that all this surely must be happening. So if we just view it from the lesser story, we're losing out on the core truth. And this is what's happening with Patricia Steere and Mark Sargent and all of the story. We're viewing the lesser story, whereas the greater story is, they told you at the start. They told you at the start. Anyone who's been listening to how where I've come with all of this, to Alice in Wonderland, up to the Dodo, up to Alice Through the Looking Glass, and beyond to Haddock's Eyes. Haddock's Eyes was a subtitle of My Heart and Lute. Haddock, so there you have your HUAND, and you have the eyes to see, that you have the H, the A, and the D. But anyone who's been following this will appreciate it more than anyone who hasn't. But it's all encoded within the greater story. I don't know why I'm looking at Aaron Dover dead at 42, but yeah, yeah, all the way up to My Heart and Lute and the Wasp in the Wig. So it's our true lesson in life. You know, this is where we need to pay attention. And once we pay attention to first of all recognize the significance of it and how truth is being encoded in all its fullness, but it's only you, the individual, if you have the proper context, that you can appreciate that it's been presented in all its fullness. I will be the first to admit I don't understand much about it, or I haven't, not that I don't understand it, I haven't come to incorporate everything and all understanding of everything that's been said and everything that's been represented, but I get the greater understanding. And ultimately, that's what I'm getting back to. It's all about frequency and vibration, and we are capable of generating our own frequency. And within this grander story, we can overcome. You know, we really can overcome. You have to understand that we are under a prevailing frequency, an opposing frequency, and yet that there is a greater aspect to all of us. So therefore, we are lesser beings. But yeah, regarding Patricia Steere, Mark Sargent, should be clear as day that there's an acting. There's an acting troupe, but there's a greater picture being presented. With the names chosen, the names themselves are significant. The habits, just the general picture that has been put across from each of them. And I started talking about this with Jamie, but I'm going to bump in Antonio Subaratz, right? So if we think about the intimate connection between Antonio Subaratz and Patricia Steere, first of all, and then that intimate connection between Patricia Steere and Mark Sargent, I have already talked about, yeah, so this is where we get, so yeah, there's a greater drama at play, and then you have the lesser drama. So greater drama is given in the names and the characteristics as well. Mark Sargent, perfect for the role in terms of how he's come to describe flat Earth. He was a man into rockets. This is connects you with fireworks into rocketry. This connects you with NASA. That NASA connection to flat Earth. Mark, and he's into relationship with anything space or otherwise. He also was a video game player for a living. So this, and he develops that then and incorporates it into his theorizing regarding flat Earth, that we're in a terrarium, and it has a fixed mechanism behind it, and all the aspects that we take as reality are actually part of an artificial force that is generating and maintaining everything. So again, it's as if he was chosen for the role, right? So indeed he was chosen for the role. We find when we look a little bit deeper, while Mark had no internet presence, I didn't clarify this myself. Again, I'm taking a step back. I'm just going over stuff. So there's no internet presence. Going back before the clues, and he just suddenly arrived upon the scene with the clues in mind. They came to him night after night, as if someone, I think his words were as if someone came along and implanted the finished product in his brain. So we're to remember that he is an actor. He's playing a part from the start, from the get-go. So work your way forward instead of looking back, working your way backwards. If we understand that from the start, we'll view everything in a different light. So that's why these life experiences, these qualifications, if you will, were chosen for him, because they relate in a massive way to the imagery, or to the model, in one sense, that he's putting forward. And yeah, then we look at the name, Mark Sargent. Yeah, so as I was saying, no internet presence, except for one thing. He did a prepper's guide. Mark Sargent did a prepper's guide. So here he is from an affluent family. You can tell that he's probably had, well, by Irish standards here, a great quality of life, just from the picture that he gives anyway, And being a prepper, being a conspiracy theorist, especially because he has no previous internet presence, according to himself, doesn't make sense, right? Doesn't make sense. If he was a prepper, he would have been on conspiracy boards, finding out information, fucking reacting violently in one sense to it, that he'd been lied to it at such a degree. And then, then talking about how we're going to deal with this. I know I'm going to become a prepper, even though it's contrary to my upbringing, whatever. So no, we understand that this is a big clue. So we have Mark Sargent, who's a prepper. That's your primary clue. To give support to that in a few different ways, we have the characters that are associated with Mark Sargent. So all roads point to Mark Sargent. Mark's Argent as well. Mark's Argent. M-A-R-K-S. Argent. A-R-G-E-N-T. Argent is silver, but it's also in French money, transfers to money. And what is money? Well, this has been the scandal recently, hasn't it? Is this all about just a marketing ploy, a marketing ploy? That's just all been about making money and being able to see something that's been rolled out. But I think that's a sideline, a distraction as well. It's a greater story it plays. Mark Sargent Prepper, Mark Sargent Pepper is your clue there. When you can appreciate that, then you look to Mark's sidekick, Patricia Steer or Miss Steer. Well, Magical Mystery Tour, ring any bells? So that's a Beatles album and film and production. So when we put the two of them separately are fine. Don't worry about that. The two of them separately, you go, well, that's a peculiarity. That's cool, but I won't attach too much significance to that. So the two of them together, then, when they're pointing at the same thing, which is the Beatles, Sgt. Pepper's, the Magical Mystery Tour, two different albums of the Beatles, this becomes significant when you realize then that the Beatles are forever, always and forever, pointing you towards Alice in Wonderland. From the opening verse in one of the most famous songs from the Beatles, which is Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. Picture a scene on a boat by the river, so the marmalade eyes, whatever, so it's deeply encoded within the works of the Beatles. So once you realize that that's the connection there, then you look deeper and you see, well, who's a good friend of these characters? Well, David Weiss. David Weiss is deep inside the rabbit hole, right? Well, that's where our adventures begin, isn't it? Alice is all of us. And it's deep inside the rabbit hole we must go in order to ascertain where we are, where we came from, and indeed where we might be going. If you remember the start of Alice in Wonderland, when she followed the rabbit down the hole and she was to make her way through the door with the golden key. Oh man, I'm going to have to bring this up now so that, because that's just something that occurred to me as well, just supports what I'm. Okay, hang on. I actually hadn't gone to chat yet, right? So I don't even know what's going on. Don't worry about it anyway. I'm just chatting away. Where is that now? Hang on. Oh, so something just occurred. Here we go. Something just occurred to me. I don't know if I'm sharing. Am I? Okay. Let me screen share. Here we go. So this just occurred to me as I was saying it. The very start of Alice in Wonderland, she has the key, the golden key. So let me go down to the end of the wasp in the wig. She has the golden key, right? But then she goes back and she drinks. It says, drink me, eat me, drink me. And this transforms her, and she can't get in the door anymore because she can't reach the key. And then she's washed away in terms of a new world of adventures. So here we have the key at the end. And indeed, this is significant itself, the structure and the sign on the key. And actually, in Limerick City, there's a statue of King Arthur, as played by Richard Harris. And on top of his crown of his head, you have this crown, and it features this design all along the top. So again, ultimately, everything is pointing you towards frequency vibration, getting the top of your head to vibrate via a mantra, which is be, he, me, be, he, me, th. So it's literally, again, through your vibrations, you're attaching an intention. And this is an harmonious frequency vibration mantra. And this is the key. So that's the key we were looking at. And I talked about this yesterday as well. There's the expression I quoted earlier on. Tenniel also commented, a wasp in a wig is altogether beyond the appliances of art. So again, if everything's encoded, what does he mean by that? Well, he means that this cannot be, art is artifice, right? So it's a representation, a reproduction, or a facsimile, yeah, of reality. It cannot and in no way can be said to equate to reality. It's like you, the living being, the living man, woman, and the legal name. That in no way can relate to reality. You are altogether beyond the appliances of art. That is an artifice, a part of art. And this is what they do to, they get you to, well, that's interesting, isn't it? They get you to consent to being a work of art, right? Replete with artifice in the form of the legal name. It is all deception, so therefore it is fraud, and any fraud that's been exposed is all contracts become null and void upon its disclosure, upon its exposure. Simple as that. You can believe that this earth is doomed from the outset. You might as well lie down now. Or you can believe that there's a higher purpose, a higher strength, a higher power associated here. So these frauds have been exposed. Now, what are we going to do about it as individuals? Well, I haven't done much. I haven't done much. I have to do more. I have to do a lot more. But one thing I have done is recognize that this is the situation. I have declared myself king of Era. Not on any selfish or other grounds, but the fact that I am alive here, I am of the land, I am of the living, and I understand the fraud that has been perpetrated against us in the form of the legal name. So, yeah, I'm making that statement, and I make that statement with the full knowledge that each and every one of us are kings and queens in the true sense upon the land. So this is yeah, there you go, Martin Gardner, right? Alice looked through the keyhole and she saw the most wondrous, beautiful garden, and this is where she had the golden key. Do you see how it's all connecting now, or is it just me? Honestly, I mean, is it just me? And I didn't realize it this tonight about the gardener and even the key connection. I made that connection before, but here we go. This is the most important chapter, the 13th chapter. But yeah, this Martin Gardner, as I read yesterday. Let me just go up here. Just as I flip through, look, 033 and 2/8, 28th of October, 3/8, Jamie. So we have the 28th, which is 2/8, and then we have October, which is 8. Martin Gardner suggested that it was a wasp's criticism of Alice's eyes that made the one-eyed Tenniel decide not to cooperate. Again, in coded language, but the garden, that's where Alice looks out through the keyhole at the very start of the adventure. That's her escape route. That's her destination. She had the key. She was fit to go out there, but then through a series of unfortunate events conspiring against her to send her on a roundabout trip, to send her on a roundabout adventure, and she eventually made her way back to right here, the wasp in the wig. Right, this is ultimately, and the key is waiting for us. Alice is all of us. The key is waiting for us. Then we can make our way through to the garden. What is that? The Garden of Eden, possibly, right? Potentially. How do you do that? Well, via frequency vibration. the understanding the route you got here to apply via your mouth, your teeth, and set up that frequency and vibration, which allows you to free yourself from the shackles, or shackles even, of this all-prevailing ether or magnetic field that we're under, that was never meant for us, but also for us to sort of realize and be like moths, come out of our cocoon and shine, come into the light, or create our own light. Light is a how would you put it? A light is no is it's not a thing in itself. It's an effect. That's the way I look upon it. It's a frequency. The sun is neither hot nor cold. It's a frequency, and it's when it interacts with water. It's water everywhere, different degrees, because we're under a magnetic field. This is why we have a cloud layer. But between the cloud layer and the ground layer, you have this constant sort of interaction going on between the imposing sun. The sun comes around and disturbs the prevailing conditions, which is the water everywhere. And also it's under a magnetic field. We're under a magnetic field as a result of a broken system as well. So yeah, it's all about frequency, vibration. We can set up our own frequency and then come to realize our own true power, or power, whatever you want to call it, our own true selves, and we don't have to wait till we're dead. I'm thinking, and now especially all this stuff has been revealed. Death is not the end, as I say. Death is the beginning. So death is DEATH. So we have the ADH there, and also like something like a funeral. Funeral is a real fun. Again, to apply the 180 flip rule, we have we have been brainwashed, and the shit scared out of us in association with death from a very early age. Maybe this is part of the challenge as well. How would we grow unless we had challenges, right? I think what ultimately makes everything all right is we know that ultimately it's just a tiny experience we're having. It's a greater package. It will come to an end, and there will be clarification and realization. And I guess maybe if within this experience we're having now we can work it out somewhat, then maybe you get the opportunity to exit stage left. Who knows? Who knows what sort of boundaries are there? So yeah, that's what I say. It's via that vibration. This is the solution to this Alice in Wonderland, which is behemoth. Be he me th. Be he me th. I said behemoth, but it's and that's thumb backwards as well. Be behemoth. It's behemoth, but it's you just expanded upon a small bit. Be he me. So that's just putting it across in the basic sense. Within this chapter, the wasp wears a handkerchief around his head. And by doing that, it's like wearing a pair of earphones, it sort of encloses everything and sets up those more ideal conditions for any reverberation to be more effective. And if you think about the sounds themselves, B, he, we, th. The th is the theta, which is the h. I talked about the h being wrapped around itself to give you the theta. And I think we have to think of everything in 3D as well, because all there is 3D. Is 3D or no D? We get to no D when we die, I suppose, but all we can understand now is 3D. So any of these representations, the H or the theta, I already talked about the A overlaid the D overlaid the H, and you get pretty much just a H inside a theta. Oh, well, you don't. You actually get an A, an upside down A overlapping one another across the bar, and then a H on top of that, and then a circle or a theta overlaying that. So that's the template for all letters and numbers. And when you understand that, when you understand that these are representative, then you can sort of decode. Yeah, I think you can decode pretty much everything. Every word is encoded according to this base template, this base blueprint. It is a blueprint in a real sense. There's no power in letters or numbers in themselves. It's what they represent. And again, when we're dealing with our own potential greater power, yeah, that's what it has to, right? That's what it has. That's the only way. That's the only way the arrow can flow, is that there's no power in these things themselves, but it's the vibration and the frequency and the intent behind the sound, which gives it power and a greater core understanding of what these characters, if you will, represent. Yeah, so I take it that that's the wasp in the wig is solid as well, and that leads us to behemoth. Yeah, so just to say it again, be he me, be he me. God is always a he, right? Or the greatest power, the highest power is always a he. Be he me, th, and again th is the theta, the 8, the alpha, the omega. So you're telling yourself exactly what your keyboard is telling you, which is BHU8. You know, so you can't be something or strive to be something or be instructed to strive to be something unless there was a possibility of you being it. So, yeah. I take it that that's solved, and I really do take it that the mantra is be, he, me. And by practicing this and by fasting has a lot to do with it. We have, remember Alice, because she was made to eat and drink, that altered her state. So that mightn't be back, that mightn't be, but by eating and drinking, it's taking us away from an initial state that we need to be at. And we're reminded of the Jesus of Nazareth story when he went to the desert and fasted for 40 days and 40 nights. He was also celebrated. There was no mention of his sexuality throughout the Bible. Then he came away illuminated. So when you combine these conditions with, let's say, a big important part for males, not sure how it works for females, but males hanging onto your vital bodily fluids, which is your semen, and imbuing it, I guess, if you want to put it like that. It's only responsible for the greatest miracle in existence, which is a newborn child, which we all were, that out of nothing comes this extraordinary something, right? So, yeah, if understood and if retained and if imbued and if combined with different practices, I think, yeah, this is the message being put across via frequency and vibration and a mantra, then we can overcome. So it's cool. But the gardener here, yeah, the very fact that his name is Gardener, excellent, for me anyway. That tells me that, yeah, this is getting us back to the start. And yeah, it won't make any sense to anybody who hasn't read Alice in Wonderland or been following or even remember. Probably most people don't remember what I'm even talking about, right? But I can't do anything about that. News, here we go, latest news. This is interesting. So let me, news phonically equivalent to, right, news. Here we go. Let me read out news for you. It's all about the phonics. Doesn't matter how you fucking spell it. I mean, that doesn't come into it. It's just the sound. It's the frequency, the vibration, and the intent behind it. So nous, or nous, or nous, N-U-S, look, so sun backwards, right? Sometimes equated to intellect or intelligence, is a philosophical term for the faculty of the human mind, which is described in classical philosophy as necessary for understanding what is true or real. So that's a mouthful, right? So nous, or nous, sometimes equated to intellect or intelligence, is a philosophical term for the faculty or the ability of the human mind, which is described in classical philosophy as necessary for understanding what is true or real. So the ability of the human mind, for the faculty, that sort of component aspect of the human mind, which is necessary to understand what is true or real, what is just what is that ability to distinguish between what is true and untrue, or real and unreal. So this is where nous or news or sun backwards, nous, comes into it. It's all the same thing. And so this is the latest nous. You see, so this is the latest help or aid that you have in helping you understand the faculty of the mind, which is necessary for understanding what is true or real. And they're just after telling you that a wasp in a wig is altogether beyond the appliances of art. Art is that our nous, or our nous tells us that art is not true or real. It is representative, right? So this is where all of this comes in. Nous then will identify to us that ability, that innate ability we have to distinguish, or that faculty we have, is a better, whatever, that ability we have, or that equipment, that core equipment we have to distinguish what is true from what is untrue. So again, perfect, it all ties in. And here we go. Martin Gardner, that's the gardener, suggests that it was the wasp's criticism of Alice's eyes that made the one-eyed Tenniel decide not to cooperate. Now remember, his first name was John, so that's with J, Tenniel. So there we have the two tens, and Jamie, two tens are XX, and the two X's side by side give you the male and the female aspect overlaid as they should be, in a perfect balance. So yeah, I'm glad I went back to this because again, that just confirms what I've already known, or I've already thought. It hasn't served to have me swaying off course. But again, most special quote here: "A wasp in a wig is altogether beyond the appliances of art." So in other words, this is confined to reality. And let the news, where is it? Yeah, latest news, right? Let the news tell you that this is something that's vital in terms of you being able to distinguish between how it may apply to reality and truth, or unreality and untruth. Because remember, you already found yourself in the midst of some crazy carryings on in terms of Alice down the rabbit hole and Alice through the looking glass. So to be able to distinguish what is in application, what is potentially real and has a real application to reality, and what is representative, what is analogous, what is metaphorical, this is what is true, what is truth, literally what is true from untrue, what is real from unreal. It's only by honing in on this understanding, or this ability, honing in on your nous, or strengthening your nous, that you can discern what has been I don't know, it's a hint at you. You've literally been told, right, if you speak the language. So what has been shoved in your face. So I'm going to leave that there. It's very interesting, right? Very interesting. And again, that's another thing I'm going to have to claim as completely solved, right? There's not completely solved, but yeah, I'm going to have to say it's solved. It's not completely understood, right? There's a few different references there I'm not sort of quite grasping, but I don't feel like the need to it. I think the basic and the core puzzle is solved, and that is it's via frequency and vibration and this mantra behemoth, where you see this was meant to slid in. Here we go again. This was supposed to slot in. Felix, if you're listening, this was supposed to slot in. They tell us, right, just before we start reading. This chapter should probably follow after chapter about the White Knight. So as we get to the White Knight, and just before we meet the Wasp in a wig, we are already reminded from Humpty Dumpty, first of all, Humpty, Thumb, you know, they have T, B. Humpty talks about, Humpty actually tells us how to decode the Jabberwocky. So he talks about portmanteaus or starting words that, you know, overlap. So the end of one overlaps at the beginning of another, and a new word is created, which encompasses the two words. He also talks about, oh, hang on. What was I going to say about the, let me have a drink of this first. Cheers. Well, yeah. When you go back, so before this chapter came on the scene, a few things didn't sort of quite fit into place. It's within the same chapter that we meet the king, and then we meet the unicorn and the lion, and the lion and Hatta. Interesting, Hatta, the Mad Hatter, the Mad Hatter. There we have excellent. There we have A D H. You're getting the message now, and then the Mad Hatter makes a reappearance. That's Mad Hatter's from Azurland, makes a reappearance in Alistair Lookingglass as what was it? Hatta, HT, yeah, HTAAH or something like that. Hatta, so it's like Hatter in reverse, something like that. Anyway, I can't quite remember. But yeah, bringing it to the forefront, and he's arrested. He's put in prison for a pre-crime, if you will. But yeah, then we're introduced to the lion and the unicorn, who are always, we are told, fighting for supremacy, right? Fighting for the crown. When you find that a collective term for lions is a pride of lions, right? A pride of lions. I bet you never guess what a collective term for the collective noun for a bunch of unicorns is. It's not a bunch, by the way. What do you think? What do you think? Give it a guess. Give it a guess in chat if you're listening. I hadn't gone to chat, so it could be a complete mess. But that's fine. We're all grown up and adult enough to deal with it, right? But what do you think the collective term, collective noun for unicorns is? Even though unicorns have to be a mythical figure, creature. Because if you think about a unicorn, again, a horse-like, but a horn, a solitary horn, emerging from the center of the forehead. Yeah, it's almost like an emanation from maybe a third eye. Or true eye, or we have only one eye, as Martin Gardner has suggested. Criticism of Alice's eyes that made the one-eyed 10-year-old decide not to cooperate. How stupid is that? How stupid is that? Like, that's stupid. It's just stupid. Even if he had one eye, I mean, he picked the wrong business, did he? I don't mean to say that, like, because my own son has issues with his eye. But I mean, you know, you picked the wrong business, and even if you didn't pick the wrong business, it's going to be more difficult than a binocular individual. So if you're going to get great work like this, just be happy with it. Shut up about the fucking narrative. You know, you're going to be offended by everything that's mentioned. You're not going to make it. You're not going to make it too far. You know, in terms of your required input. So yeah, this is clearly on the face of it ridiculous front cover, and just serves to tell us that this is insignificant in a great manner. Yeah. So yeah, there you go. The chapter should probably follow after the chapter about the White Knight. So, yeah. This is the end. You remember Pulp Fiction? Remember the movie Pulp Fiction? So if you're sitting down to watch it for the first time, it's like, what the fuck is going on? It was completely out of order, out of balance. But it's only when you see it a few times, I guess, and let it sink in, that there's a whole coherence within the apparent incoherence, right? And it leaves you, even though it leaves you at the beginning, in a sense, it leaves you satisfied, because the greater questions um, outweigh the temporary anomalies, right? That's a good way to put it. So it all makes a sort of a greater sense. So I'm very happy I went to that now again, just for that alone. And we have the key, and yeah, that's what it is. The key on the crown of your head, via frequency vibration, with the understanding of how you've come to it. And yeah, there's no stopping you now. Okay, I better go into chat, right? I can't believe that there's not much music there. Uh, okay. Mark Sargent seems to have a sort of a I put on a bit of Jan. I like Jan. I should
the other side of perpetual twilight. One last time. Follow me, you want immortality. Hold the key, possess the spirit of destiny. Now let's set sail to the holy grail, set your soul free. The northern lights will be your guide to the other side of perpetual twilight. All I need, I get you. A feeling burning down. Knowing I must do all I can. Find the truth to who I really am. Bring your heaven to earth. Yeah, stop the suffering, the pain, and the hurt. 'Cause I can see it in anyone. Thought I was just crazy. The veil's been lifted from my eyes. The cloudy haze no longer fills my mind. Get out, feel alive. On my way, then we'll come. On my way, then we'll come. Oh, I need, I get to see the depth of Christ that they see. We know something that they bring your heaven to the world. Stop suffering the pain. I can see it getting any worse. That's just crazy. The veil's been lifted from my eyes. The cloudy haze no longer fills my mind. Getting out to feel alive.
Lovely, isn't that lovely by Jen? And I was just thinking about the spear of destiny. And when I've taken the sword from the stone, sword is the S word, is. So I still got the sword, right? So did that not imply that I have the ability to say what is? In other words, I have the ability to create from the sword plowshare shall be made, right? Whatever. What that doesn't mean much to us. Something that's known to be destructive can be turned into something that is constructive. So I just thought about that. Yeah, it's one thing taking the sword from the stone. What the fuck are you going to do with the sword, right? The S word. So that's good consideration there that I just realized tonight as well. Wield it, yeah. Okay, let me. You probably saw me just bringing up some lyrics. Definitely going to chat after this, right? I'm just. I was going to say I didn't know how many was listening, but when Jen was playing there, I think there was 7 people. So that's cool with me. I'm just sitting there having a beer. I'll be on for a little bit. I'm definitely going to chat next, and I'm going to sing this song in the intervening time. On the main streets and the avenues, in the condos wide as knuckles bruised, with the carving of the prison liquor bars. There's a dark and mystic beauty to these inner city girls that slide by in the velvet of their cars. To the dance halls and the shopping malls and the subways filled with Dresden dolls, the school of fallen angels on the ground. The whole city's just an expensive whore, a forest name for the pompadour, but there ain't no woman around. No, there ain't no woman around. No, there ain't no woman around. I'm surrounded by these girls, but there just ain't no woman around. And the girl that fills my bed will hear the words I should have said. The only true love I have ever found. I pretend that makeup in her purse is a daydream, not a curse that comes just to keep me down. I can still taste the use of her kiss. Maybe it's the childhood that I missed the first time around. There's a weird shape to her charms, and there's a strange man on her arm. There ain't no woman around. No, there ain't no woman around. No, there ain't no woman around. I'm surrounded by these girls, but there just ain't no woman around. Sometimes I feel like I'm running like a fever through the night, run myself into the ground. I miss your smile and your name and your breath on my skin, and I'm lost and alone in this crowd. From the locks and curls and strings of pearls to the drunken eagle jelly girls, it's an all-day floor show matinee in town. And suddenly it occurs that I'm surrounded by these girls, but there ain't no woman around. Oh, there ain't no woman around. There ain't no woman around. But I'm surrounded by these girls, but there just ain't no woman around. Oh, there ain't no woman around. No, there ain't no woman around. I'm surrounded by these girls, but Okay, that sounded okay to me. I'm willing to bet that many of you haven't heard that before. Philosopher Kings, No Woman Around. And that's one I will be singing again, actually, because I like it. Let me quit a lot of these things. I haven't even gone into chat yet, have I? Let me go into chat. Okay, cool. Okay, sorry I haven't come into chat. Anybody who's asking questions, and okay, so how you doing, everybody? Let me ask, or let me read out a few comments and maybe try and answer a few questions. Any questions you have, let me know. Is anyone still here? Felix, how you doing, Felix? Hope you're well. Felix, I am. No, Felix, I am, right? P900 Cool Pics, how you doing, P900? Sandra, Chris, Hayes, how you doing? Tesla Truth, Argent Moon, Moon Eye, German Mark, yeah, excellent. Excellent. Everything is significant in one grander sense. And what I think you'll find is there's a core sort of apex, right? So you'll have many different encoded meanings, but they'll all be pointing towards one core meaning. And this is where the simplicity, this is where the child-like mentality and innocence comes into things as well. You know, just looking at things at a basic core level, it's almost like we reject it because it's too simple sort of idea. So yeah, there'll be many sort of side roads that you can take, but there'll always be a core truth involved. And I think we're definitely honing in on that core truth, or at least I am. I'm trying not to fool myself, but that's the way it feels, right? So new or news, what a mess. Yeah, well, it's all phonics, Felix, right? It's all phonics, Felix. For fuck's sake, Felix, it's all phonics. Okay, I dare you say that the next time, Felix, you have a few drinks on you. It's all phonics, Felix. For fuck's sake, Felix, it's all phonics. Or it's all phonics, Felix. For fuck's sake, Felix, all phonics. Yeah, that'd be good. Dare you say that next time you have a few drinks in you and you're on Pancho Pizza or something. And if you want to come on for a chat at any point here, Felix, maybe not tonight because it's getting a bit late, but I think that'd be cool. I haven't really had, not directing this at you or anything, but I haven't really had an ear and a mouth to bounce these things off, you know. So for the most part, it's been me talking to myself here to the computer. I don't go into chat too much, but not because I don't intend to do that or intend to piss anyone off. I just sort of go off on a tangent and ultimately talk about a lot of things, but get back to the same core things. And yeah, that was the realization tonight about the sword from the stone. I have taken the sword from the stone. The sword is the S word from the S tone. The S tone is the TH, right? And a stone it causes a wound, right? So with the stone, a sword causes a wound. So with the sword removed from the stone, then the wound is healed, and now you wield the power of the sword, or the S word, which is the is, and the understanding of what is represents, implies. If it's coming from a point of view of a creator, if we are creators, Felix, I would just direct us towards you, because someone gave you a wrench in that chat, Felix. So you obviously have greater authority. So if you could sort of translate my message to your people, that'd be great, and we could sort of come to some sort of treaty or agreement. But no, I'm kidding. But yeah, the S word, with the power of the S word and the ability to potentially create, well, the world's your oyster, right? That's what I was talking about. Mark Sargent and Clubin in the name earlier on, and Patricia Steer, magical mystery tour. So it's all pointing us to the Beatles. David Wise, Deep Inside a Rabbit Hole. So not only are the names connected, there's a connection between the names, but there's a connection between the people themselves. They're all friends. They're all cooperating behind the scenes. And I don't think I can believe that they're bad people. This is my whole point. So there's a greater and a different game going on. This is my point. But you have to consider whether they're bad people, because yeah, we have made the call that they are acting a part, and there is deception involved, whatever form that deception takes. Um, so that connection is made and clarified in 100 different ways. So once you realize that this is the real game in play, and you are the real power, then you and each and every one of us have the ability to take the sword from the stone, or the S word from the S tone. You are Arthur, King Arthur. You are Thor, and mentioned in. That's what I'm going to bring that up again, because mentioned in. Okay, history. It's probably the easiest thing to do. History. Here we go. I'm going to mention it again because here's the name that's given us. I talked about Gardner, and I know Felix left a comment there, so I'm going to read that. I talked about Gardner, but look who else is mentioned. I pointed this out yesterday. Remember, outside of the Bible, right, and outside of the works of Shakespeare, these are the facts we're presented. Outside of the Bible, outside of the works of Shakespeare, no fucker knows who wrote the Bible. Well, this fucker here thinks he knows who wrote the Bible. But outside of that, outside of the works of Shakespeare, this Earthwide is the third most. 3 is the magic number, or 3 is the magic number. This is the third most produced and distributed work. Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland. You can check that out if you will. So everything here is significant, but not in a superficial manner. That's the name I was referencing. Where is it? We had Martin Gardner. We already talked about Martin Gardner. Here we have Norman Armour. Norman, Northman. North is our home. So we have Norman Armour. Well, Armour, Arthur, very similar. The M is, if you put the TH in, we have Arthur as well. Yeah, excellent. Arthur, ARTH. You see the way Arthur is a construct. So you see the way it has 2 out of 3. ARTHUR. There's the D is missing. So that sort of reality is missing. Remember, the D is the dome of the head as well, the marble arch. But yeah, Norman Arthur. He received a reply from Norman Arthur Jr. of the New York Times. Arthur gave Gardner a copy of the episode. I mean, this is all nonsense storytelling, but behind it, there is a significance, you know. So, like the Bible literalists, they'll have you imagine, is it this Norman Armour who automatically, when you formulate a picture in your brain, you're going to think of a blonde guy who's stockily built or something, you know, because the Normans were always blonde and tall, blue-eyed, and armor suggests that, you know, there's sort of good protection going on there. So, you know, the words conjure up an image, but yeah, when you look a bit deeper, and we have context, right? This is all about a context. Well, then you have the Gardener and King Arthur, and you are Thor. It's via frequency vibration. You free yourself, and you have to take the sword from the stone and understand why you're taking the sword from the stone, because it's all about frequency and vibration. Now that you have the sword from the stone, you've healed the S tone, the TH. See, the is. You still have the S sound, but it's a much softened, soothing S sound, which is the TH. So what are you going to do with the sword now? And again, if you have the ability to create, if you believe, you know you have to not believe. Again, we have to be careful of the words. believe, you have the L in there, BLE, BL, here you go, BL, live. When you believe, you BL, live. So you're giving life to an unreality. That's a good one now. Because lots of people talk about believe in terms of there's a lie in the center of believe. But BL, so if you BL, live, so you give life to a construct. And I already talked about L. L is time, in the sense that how it relates to the destruction. So time as we know it only came into being on the back of this destruction. Time is a measurement of change, I guess. And, you know, we change from night to day, which is dependent on the sun. We change from season to season, which is dependent on the sun, right? And it's relative location to us. So all of these things, the fruits of the ground, fruits of the natural processes, this is all based on time and duration, you know, and based again primarily on the sun and its transit, whatever the sun is and whatever its transit, and however it can be described. So yeah, L is time, and again, this references back a destruction, a transition from a previous natural situation. You can only say it's natural. I mean, for instance, if I come from a certain background and I sort of make my way through different cultures or experiences, well, what's natural to me is what I have been reared with, right? The first few formative years. So yeah, it's a transition, or it's time's arrow flows in one sense. You know, we base natural on everything we deem to be normal, what we have accepted as part of reality, and it usually goes back to, of course, our earliest of times, and we can and are indeed very misinformed for the most part in terms of what we do view as natural. One thing I asked Jamie was, and I ask everybody the same thing, is to consider what is real. This is the most pressing question that should be on each of our brain, or ours brains, our brains, each of our brains, right? So when you ask this question, no matter how deep you go with it, then you'll find a different context and a different place for you yourself, who is there asking this question in the first place and has a previously held general understanding, in inverted commas, of who and what and where you are. So yeah, it's one of those things you get intricately connected up in. But when you step back and ask the basic questions, this is when I think more simpler and core truths expose themselves. So yeah, believe, it's BL, live. So you're giving life to a construct. You're giving life to like, yeah, oh gosh, yeah. Well, I described L. L is the 12th letter, and if you invert and mirror capital L, you get 7. So these two are equatable. The 7th letter is G. The G is a late addition to the English alphabet, so it's an imposer as opposed to an imposter. So it represents something different. I understand what the H means, and if you think about the H in terms of well, you got 2 pillars and a crossbar. Look at the A as opposed to the H. You have a collapse of the H, right, towards the top. And if you take away the crossbar from the A, then you have the accepted symbol for the masculine. I pointed out this earlier on the One World Trade Center, or One World Trade, I guess it's called, whatever it is. And again, I must have a look at that, because there's so much encoded in that. But yeah, if you take away the crossbar, then you have the international accepted symbol for male, masculine. But it's missing vital components of the H, right? So this tells you there's an imbalance there. It's when you overlap the female, which is the arrow pointing downwards, with the male, and then you have that interconnection between both sides, which is in one sense the child. So you have the male, the female, and the child all in one. Then you have this perfect unity. That H then can be blended or melded into a theta. So just above the bar, above the crossbar, and below, just fold around into the shape of a ball, and there you have a 0 and an 8 within one, within the H. So the 0 and the 8 represents the alpha, and the omega, the beginning and the end. It's again ineffable to us in a limited state, but we can understand the idea, the concept somewhat. It's the indescribable. It's the highest power. It's the hand. It's the hidden hand. It's the overarching is, I guess, and that's why God is I am. So there's problems with that. There's problems with that, as there's problems with every vibration we use unless we're fully aware of the significance behind it. Remember, it's all about intent. If you put out a vibration and you don't insert an intent behind it, maybe that vibration is still prone to being sort of gathered and used, you know what I mean? So you have power, but you are vague in your expression of that power. So you leave it off, and other people or other powers are around collecting it. I think it's something along these lines. This is about what I just said there. Believe, there's a lie in it, and it's also BL, live. So you're giving life to this L. You're giving life to something that has no good reason to have existence in the first place, and that's the power of you. So when you hear a name like Martin Gardner and Norman Armour, normally that won't mean anything to you, but in the context of where we've come through regarding Alice Through the Looking Glass, the discarded 13 chapter, 13 being appropriate as well, the different contexts that I'm telling you to place it within. Possibly, I'm not telling you, I'm just saying that these are, possible avenues that you can make the association with, and alongside other findings, this all seems to be gelling towards one apex. Actually, that's a good way. It's a pyramidal. Is that good? Pyramidic. No, that's too close to paramedic. Pyramidic. Pyramidal. No, that doesn't sound right either. So pyramidic definitely doesn't sound right. That sounds like some sort of a twisted porn movie. Lucy meets pyramidic. Pyramid. So we have let's break it down. We have the core phrase pyramid. So if it was like a pyramid, it would be pyramidic. No, that doesn't pyramidic. No, that's too close to paramedic. Pyramidal. Pyramidal. That sounds good, but it doesn't sound appropriate, right? It's a good word. I don't think it exists and has a core definition to it. Pyramidal. Yeah. Don't get pyramidal on me, man. Come on, just stop getting. Don't go there. Don't get pyramidal on me. I don't know what that means, but it has a sort of a flow to it anyway. So I don't think that's right. So like a pyramid, pyramidic. That doesn't sound right though, does it? Pyramidic. It seems natural in terms of construction. Something like a pyramid. Pyramidic. That doesn't sound right as well though. Pyramidic. Pyramid. Something like a pyramid is pyramid-like. pyramid. That's to sort of layman. You know what I mean? It's like a pyramid. No, pyramidic. 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 No, that's not right, man. Because like it's pyramidic. It's almost the same as saying pyramidic. Amidic, pyramidic. Amidic, imidic. You know, you say amidic, I say imidic. So that doesn't sound right. And I think it's something like the Mandela effect or something here, because I never had a problem with, I think anyway, these sort of extrapolations before. So nothing sounds right there. Pyramidic. That doesn't sound right, does it? Pyramidal. 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 That doesn't sound right either. No. Yeah. Well, looky here. Look at the big X in the center. You think that's telling you something? There we have the male or the female at the top and the male, but they're meeting at the center point. What we need is an overlapping. There's a separation there. When we overlap, then we get the XX there. Then the XX gives us J tennial. Remember, this is the illustrator. Lewis Carroll is said to be the author of the third most earthwide, I'm not going to say successful, that's not the right word, right? Influential, published is a good word. The third most published set of books. And more power to it as well, because Alice in Wonderland did 12 chapters, and 12 chapters, which is 24 chapters, which is 888, right? Versus Shakespeare, the works of Shakespeare goes into many, many different plays. I read all the plays of Shakespeare actually way back, and I was glad I did. Excellent. Now that I know what I know, well, and then next to that, the Bible. So this is a massive deal. The Bible is a massive tome as well. So you can see that the significance of Lewis Carroll and Alice in Wonderland shoots up. It on a par, chapter for chapter. Lewis Carroll and Alice in Wonderland wins hands down. Do you see that now? Do you see how that is? If you type in to your own Google search now the three or whatever top 10 most published books in history or whatever, you will get the Bible, you will get the works of Shakespeare, and you would get, well, I did anyway, right? So I wasn't looking to get this, but then you'll get in third place Lewis Carroll, Alice in Wonderland. And I'd already maintained that these same works were by the same hand or the same hidden hand. So isn't that interesting? So yeah, everything is tying together, and yeah. It doesn't write pyramidic. It doesn't, you know what I mean? But I had this, do you ever have this weird feeling before? I mean, think of any word you like and that you understand completely and fully. Let me just give you an example. Well, let's just say gentleman. So that's just a word I'm reading off here, property of a gentleman. So you think you understand what a gentleman is, right? So just in your own time, repeat gentleman to yourself maybe 50 times. So if you do it once every 2 seconds, that'll occupy 100 seconds of your time. I guarantee you by the time you get to, I don't know, I'm going to say, well, I say 20, do I dare say 24? No, it's going to take a bit more than that. But before you get to 50 anyway, you're going to be saying the word, perfectly understanding what it is, but not having a fucking clue what it means. Try it. I dare you. Anyone who's left in chat, do it yourself. Say to yourself 50 times, once every 2 seconds, gentleman, understanding and trying to hang on to you understanding what exactly it is you mean by what you're saying. By the time you get to, I'm going to say, if anyone is going to try it out there, 37 came to me just out of the blue there, so maybe someone might be trying that. And at turn 37, they'll go, what the fuck does it mean in your brain? You're not going to say it out loud because you're still saying gentleman. You go, what the fuck am I talking about? What? I don't know what I'm doing. I don't. You honestly. So try it. And so 37 comes to mind. Um, but yeah, just for that realization alone, there, believe, BL, live. You're given life to a construct, and that's where the G comes into things as well. And yeah, I've talked about that before. Look, we have half a behemoth. There's two words underlined: B, TH. The end, the beginning and the end, the alpha, the omega, behemoth. You're going to say, well, that's too easy. Well, it's only too easy because I've told you the context of things that I have discovered. Otherwise, this would mean nothing, very little to anybody. First of all, you have to be a flat earther. If you don't understand who you are in one sense and where you are, most especially, is your starting point. Maybe you get to understand who you are after understanding where you are. That's a flat and stationary earth. This underlined words, beard, and this. There's your is. Look, I told you the S word, the sword, which I now have. And I don't mean that in any pompous way. I don't mean any that in any haughty way. Just saying that as a matter of fact, I understand that I have taken this sword from the stone, the S word from the S tone. The wound can be healed, and now the sword is in my possession. Each and every one of us is free to do the exact same for themselves because they can understand what this represents. So yeah, for that, I'm grateful. I just came on live tonight. Yeah, here we see as well the beard, behemoth, BTH, BTH. That was all. Behemoth, be he, me, TH. So yeah, nice. Let me go back into chat. But yeah, sorry, the last bit, that's just Norman armor. And I was just talking about King Arthur in the center of Limerick City here, played by Richard Harris. And so many clues. His belt is made of X's and eights, right? So it's right there in front of you. His crown is made up of these keys at the end. As they overlay the top. And again, it's the crown. It's not the literal crown. It's the crown of the head. The top of the head. We have the temples at either side. So this is about frequency and vibration and having that bell ringing at the top and combining everything with understanding. And noose. There's a noose loose about the hoose. Yeah, okay. I'll go back to chat. I like it, Felix. I like it. Well, what is wisdom? We don't know, right? We don't know. We just try and express ideas and make sense of what's presented us, I guess, in one big sense, in our own inimitable way. It's like, I know you have an interest in music, but none of the keys you're using are new. None of the basic scale notes, and that's a good one, Felix. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. So you have do twice, right? Do, do. But what happens if you skip? And actually, I have that written down, and that's what I mean to do as well. It's something I mean to do. If you skip every second one, especially for the first one, so you have do, you skip re, then you have mi, well, then you have dome, right? D-O-M-E. But particularly interesting, the other song, do, a deer, a female deer, ray, a drop of golden sun, me a name I call myself, far a long, long way to run. Do, re, mi, so, a needle pulling thread, lo, a note to follow, so, tea, a tip of jam and bread, and I will bring you back do 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 do. Okay, I was a bit. Why is there no rhyme for law? Um, L, there's your L again. So L is the odd one out. There's no rhyme for it. So you're telling me in terms of all the Hollywood composers, they couldn't come up with a rhyme for law or law. Yeah, well, exactly, law. Fuck's sake, law. To think the overarching sort of bane around their necks, the law of the land, the legality, the law from God. That's why there's no rhyme for law, because they're pointing out to you you need to look at the law and the L. It's the L O. So here we go, Felix. I'll talk to you. The L O, the law. If we invert it, we have L So L, sorry, law is LAW. So we separate the L and the AW. We invert and mirror the AW to get an AM. So we go L as in EL, am. What do you reckon? Um, okay, Felix, you say you'd rather be here listening to ideas and some wisdom and playing in their sandbox full of cat shit. I mean, whose sandbox do you mean there? And um, I guess in one sense, for the individual, there's potential sandboxes full of cat shit everywhere around. How are we going to sift through the cat shit? And sometimes, yeah, one man's just a paraphrase. A paraphrase. One man's cat shit is another. What is it? One man's shit is another man's fertilizer, right? And it's amongst and amidst the shit that you find real gems in some sense, in some real core sense. So we have to be careful what to write off. Not speaking to you specifically here, Felix, but just in general, and to myself most especially. We have to be careful what we will write off, um, and especially in an ever sort of changing, newer context of things. I think we can all agree. Well, I can certainly agree for myself that I'm learning things every day. In the last 6 months, I've learned more than I've ever learned previously, and I didn't think it was possible to learn much more a year ago. Um, so I take it we're all on the, and we've had issues before, Felix. Or most especially, I've had issues with you, and we sort of overcame that, and that's cool as well. But one thing I do realize is that people who may know more and be acting within a greater context are not privy to everything. So they still have to go through their own life experiences, even though being in possession of some sort of greater or more sort of apt truths. Yeah, they still have. This is the purpose. Everyone has to experience life, and there's always a greater puzzle for everybody. Um, when I found out, this is just myself. I'm just speaking to myself. When I found out that some people, I'm pretty sure, I know for, as much as I can say, are acting their part. And I asked them straight up, did they know anything about the dodo or the significance of the dodo? And the answers that he was giving back just told me all they knew was um, what they were told in school, just an extinct bird who was just sort of incompetent, incompetent at living. So I knew then that, well, they can't be in possession of the full truth. You can't be. I don't care who you are. You can't be in possession of the full truth unless you realize the significance of the dodo and how apt and appropriate as well. Well, as I was just talking about the dodo, Felix, eight watching. If you turn to dodo, or sorry, if you do dodo in capital letters, let me do it in the chat. If you do dodo in capital letters, look remarkably like, well, it's not representative properly there, but 8-8 on its side. um, but yeah, unless you understand the significance of the dodo and beyond, you can't be in possession of the greater truth. I think so, because it's such a hub that connects so many different things, and um, yeah, that's where I'm at the minute. So I'm happy enough to think that even though people are in, let's say, just Freemasons or whatever, I mean, everyone's life story is their own. No one has the authority to judge anybody else. Like I was saying to Billy earlier on, yeah, every man, including male and female, has their point of view, their point of acceptance, um, their point of perspective. And in the expression of that point of perspective, you have certain rights, and no, there's no authority can be had over you, in terms of any restriction or any jurisdiction, authority over the expressions that you verbalize, right? So yeah, once we understand that, then we can be. And here's the thing about flat Earth as well. In one sense, we're restricted in so many manners, so many fashions, so many questions you can't ask, even though the questions are on the tip of your tongue. I know you've had your own run-ins with people, Felix, but yeah, ultimately it comes down to everyone is having their own experience within their own confines, um, and everyone is trying to make sense of everything else. And just because you're in possession of, let's say there's umpteen keys to be had, but you have 5 or 6 keys, as opposed to someone who has one key, for instance. Well, in some senses, that can be viewed as a burden. You've sort of too many keys, and you don't know which door or which lock to open, or which direction to go with which lock or which key. You know what I mean? We're all, yeah, we're all equally equipped. We're all equally armored. In terms of, what was it, Norman? We are Northmen. So our journey is back to paradise, to the north. To initial conditions, to unification. Felix says, when Alice, unicorn is the national animal of Scotland. That's amazing. For fuck's sake, Felix. Unicorn. Isn't that amazing? We have the Scottish rite. And I think I heard that before, but it sort of never sunk in. But thank you for that reminder. National animal. It was not an animal, really, though. Is it emblem? I'd say. Would you say emblem? And then you have the X. Then you have the cross on the blue background. Excellent. We have a blessing of unicorns. That's the answer to what I put out earlier on. The collective noun for unicorns, even though they're a mythical creature. So they sort of have existence, but they don't have existence. They're torn between two lovers, I guess. Excellent. Of Scotland. Well, you have the Scottish rite. Interesting about a eunuch. Well, let's think of it in a few different ways. A unicorn, a unique horn. A horn. How does a horn work? Well, through your efforts, you send out vibrations through the ether, whatever, and you communicate. So a unicorn. But how about this one as well? A eunuch horn. So sort of a pointless thing to have, in a sense. When we think of a eunuch, it's a sort of a contradiction in terms, right? A eunuch is definitely associated with castration, and a eunuch horn, which is a slang term for an erection, is an impossible thing. So that's another possible take in it. But that's interesting, yeah. Scotland is definitely essential. So Edinburgh, down deep inside the rabbit hole, burrow, Edinburgh. So you have to dig deep to find the truth regarding Eden. Now, in one sense, we have to step back from Eden. Eden is need, an anagram of need. And I think we need to ascertain whether this is not just another false reality, another false layer. You know, if we are something at our very essence, at our very core, we want to get straight to the truth and heart of matters, right? We want to know who we are at this stage, at least from this vantage point. So, yeah, we have to be aware that there might be many different traps, not traps, byways, layways along the path. So, yeah. When Alice couldn't get through the front door, she had no key. She had to alter her consciousness to fit through the keyhole. Under the influence of something, she has to eat or drink. Right, right. This is what I'm saying at a core level. At a core level, Felix, is it that we are eating and drinking, which is the issue here? I talked about this with Jamie earlier on. That, I mean, the idea seems obnoxious now that a man could survive without, or when I say man as well, you know, male and female, we are both one and the same. Um, Aspects, divided aspects of the same thing. So there's no distinction or separation between us, really, ultimately. But I was talking about this with Jamie Brown, and I want you to come over to Jamie Brown sometime, Felix. You'd be more than welcome. I'm sure Jamie would appreciate a chat with you as well. Um, but we were talking about this earlier on. It's not just something you enter into in the morning. It's like you wouldn't do a marathon. You wouldn't just get up tomorrow and say, well, I'm going to do a marathon on Monday, because you wouldn't expect anything positive or anything. Um, um, yeah, you just wouldn't, right? Life has taught you that it takes more than this. So it's the same sort of thing. We're talking about breatharianism. And is there a step beyond breatharianism where you don't even have to breathe at all? And I can easily imagine that. I don't know about you. I can easily imagine telecommunications. I've had that feeling where I've just been lying there, or just whatever, standing there and not needing to breathe. So there's a core feeling, momentary feeling that I could do this for ages and ages. Um, so again, if we took the proper preparatory sort of steps and we came to a core understanding as well of this potential, how far may it go? Well, who knows? Maybe it goes as far as fundamental changes and you just leaving everything else behind. You know what I mean? Because everything takes on a completely different significance, and then your whole future path is segregated from pretty much everyone else, because you first of all realize that, well, this is a whole new world you've entered, in a sense. There's another one, Felix, world, L. The word within the word is L. L is placed within the word. So this construct is placed within the pure vibration. And in a sense, L is. It's the sword from the stone. Think of Elizabeth. Elizabeth. We have behemoth, half of behemoth, then we have L and is. Um, that needs to be replaced with the H-O-M-E or H-E-M-O, which is the other half of behemoth. Behemoth. Yeah, so Alice is always looking to get home, so is Dorothy. So that's her clue there. But yeah, is at its very core, when you push it to the extremes, even the idea that we have to eat or drink, is that taken away from our true and pure capabilities? I think so. I really do think so. Um, once we sort of start thinking and operating in a different sense, uh, we become less interested in these things. A sip here or there, a little bite to eat here or there will suffice if your mind is thinking in a different fashion. Dave Murphy talks about that. I think Dave is a plant. I'm sure Dave is a plant, but I look differently upon actors or plants, as I call them, actors as I call them. You know, it's something to, there are people to be learned from. No one can take away our own personal power. We are what we are. if only we came to realize that. So I think that this is a grander game, and there are people put in place to help and to hinder. It's always sort of constructive hindering, you know. This is why so many different deceptions are being made so clear and obvious, because you're always encouraged to look for something deeper. And that's what I talked about Antonio Subrats as well. Well, I meant to talk about that. Antonio Subrats in connection with Mark Sargent and Patricia Steer, Miss Steer. So we have the Magical Mystery Tour, the Mark Sargent Peppers. That leads us to Alice in Wonderland, and Magical Mystery Tour, Beatles again, Alice in Wonderland, David Weiss, Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole, Alice in Wonderland, and yeah, once we, well, you remember Haunted House? You know Haunted House, the witness to 9/11? Yeah, remember his avatar? It's a theta, right? It's a circle with a line crossing the center. Another thing I thought about earlier on, anyone who's still listening, was circumcision with the Jewish people. And in one sense, when you circumcise a penis and you cut the foreskin, well, if you look down on that, that's almost a theta as well, right? So you have yeah, that's just something I thought about, and something I thought I'd mention as well. Is there something significant about that? I was wondering why, what would be the reasoning behind doing this, leaving this mark on your child. I mean, I had a child. I've held my tender child in my arms. Um, you know, I wouldn't dream of hurting him. Excuse me, Steve, not it. Hurting him in any sense, form, fashion, whatsoever. Not to mind letting someone bite the foreskin off his penis. So this is alien thinking to me. But yeah, that was just something that occurred to me. I was thinking in terms of why would they do that? But then you look at a penis, and well, if you look at a sort of a plan of a penis, then you have a circle with a crossbar. Actually, I'm just looking at Internet Explorer E logo, and look at how close it is to a theta, but it's missing an aspect. So actually, here we go with the G and the L, and why they're interchangeable in one sense. If you look at the capital G on your keyboard and the capital L, if you combine those together, you could almost get a theta, right? Almost. It's pretty close. You know, the G is missing two little components, and the L has two components to it. So a little bit of bending and distorting, but get your L slotted in there with the G to make it theta. So again, this tells us that we are at variance with the H, with the highest, and we have to look upon it in terms of the construct that it is. It's a story, it's a word, and associated with the word and the vibration, an image is created within your brain. So once you let go of any preconceived ideas, notions, and see through the words and their core meaning, the words themselves have no power. It's what they represent. Again, if your intent is hijacked, then if you are a being with an ability to create, yeah, we can see how that energy might be beneficial to others in one sense, or else just be wasted down the drain. You know, there's not taking advantage of it all. So yeah, pushing it. So maybe it's the food and the drink. Well, again, I talked about that with Jamie. That pushing it to the extreme, pushing it to the ideal in a sense. Can we survive without food and drink? I think so. It's about wrapping our minds around it and strengthening our minds. And again, via frequency and vibration, we can overcome. So yeah, ultimately though, this is where the 13th chapter comes in, Felix, the wasp and the wig. This is providing the gateway, the final gateway, and there we have the key. This is where Alice was wanted to go to at the very start, if you remember, through to the garden. You know, again, it is reference to Garden of Eden. Well, you tell me your view of paradise. Thomas More, who wrote Utopia, told me his view of paradise, even though he didn't exist, in My Heart in Lute. Let me read My Heart in Lute. Let me sing it again, actually. I just sing my last one, so let me just sing it again. But yeah, Thomas More, Behemoth, Thomas Thom, he wrote Utopia. He was also beheaded. The subtitle for this was Haddock's Eyes, right? Ways and Means. And it was referenced by the White Knight. But of all Alice's adventures, this was the most memorable, pertinent. So I'll sing it a bit low. It's a bit late here, but let me do it anyway. I give the all, I can't no more, the poor the offering be. My heart and lute are all the store that I can bring to thee. A lute whose gentle song reveals the soul of love full well, and better for a heart that feels much more than lute can tell. Though love and song may fail, alas, to keep life's clouds away, at least 'twill make them lighter pass, or gild them if they stay. And even if care at moments flings a discord o'er life's happy strain, oh, let love gently touch the strings, 'twill all be sweet again. Oh, let love gently touch the strings, 'twill all be sweet again. Yeah, so I just played that because I really know how significant it is. It's like once you make your way through the different realizations and the different understandings of the significance of Alice in Wonderland, and yeah, this is the pinnacle. This is where you've been pointed to, and it's My Heart in Lute. Thomas More, as I said, who was said to have written Utopia, and I was also said to be beheaded. And I said throughout Alice in Wonderland, Alice Through Looking Glass, this beheaded theme comes into it, and also the idea of giant trees. So beheading the giant trees. This is what's been told in general. Yeah, more significant. My Heart in Lute, my Earth and Star. No, it is star in the singular. All there is the sun and its reflected artifacts. So I thought this was the end. Then you get to the 13th chapter. This is telling you about my Earth and Star. That's everything, right? My Earth and Star. Then you get to the 13th chapter. As without, so within. This is telling you what's. This is telling you within. Then the solution, the truth about what's within, and it's via frequency and vibration we get back to our former selves, our true selves. And yeah, where I'm at, it's be, he, me, behemoth. Yeah, that's one thing I wanted to say just a bit earlier on. Patricia, I know people don't like to hear this, but Patricia, Mark Sargent, Antonio Subrat, intricate connection there, as we can all appreciate. The clue is in the name. Mark Sargent, Sergeant Peppers, Patricia Steer, Miss Steer, Mystery, Magical Mystery Tour, Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole Association, Alice in Wonderland, right? Antonio Subrat. Right. When we made our way through when we made our way through Alice in Wonderland, Alice Through Looking Glass, there was a puzzle placed for us just before we became queen. So it was posed by the two other queens, the left-hand queen, the right-hand queen, and I'm not going to go through it again. But the ultimate solution was oysters. And I was close to it with lobster, but who was it? I should give credit now to who it was. He was a bowler sort of guy who came along and said maybe it's oysters, and it's definitely oysters. That's the solution to it. And if I think of the name, I'll let you know. But yeah, oysters, oysters. So this plays a prevalent theme throughout, a prevalent role throughout Alice Through Looking Glass, Alice in Wonderland, and we're being pointed at it from every direction. Once you can understand the star or the stars, because the stars are part of the star, then you can sort of come to understand the external puzzle, which is the nature of Earth, and you know, the solidity or the reality around you. It's a different puzzle, which is internal, which is a sort of, yeah, via this noose or strengthening your noose, you can understand and have a greater ability to separate truth from untruth or real from unreal. So yeah, that's the sort of the duality of things, and as within, so without. So yeah, we can appreciate the distinctions, and yeah, and well, incorporate what we learn. Incorporate into our thinking. That's all it's all about. It's not about me. Here's the thing about all of this. I think it applies to us all as well. It's not about me or you proving anything to anybody else. It's about proving it to yourself, isn't it? First and foremost. Well, I cannot possibly hope to tell somebody what's right or wrong or what's true or untrue if I, in all my own truth and honesty, can say that I don't know what's true and or what isn't true. So this is a very shaky position to take, especially when you're dealing with potentially divine, and I would say definitely divine creatures, divine beings, which all of us are. So this is where the is comes into it. You declaring to somebody else your intent or your certitude. Yeah, you want to be careful, right? You want to be careful that what you are communicating, you are sure of. Especially if your intent is not to deceive. Yeah. Um, okay. Yeah, you know it, Felix. You know it. You know it. You had tuned into something at a very early stage, according to what I understand. But of course, only you know your own life and times. The one thing I will ask you, if I may, Felix, is um, what's the biggest question you have left? Well, in spite of you being aware of all this, or you, in one sense, you have this much of a head start on lots of people. And remember, we appreciate that we're all equal, each and every one of us. But what's the biggest question that's still an answer evade you, or is there a more pressing question now that you have for yourself? And I ask that in earnest, really, because if you did, for instance, have a question and you shared it, and I might offer a thought on it, because well, potentially I could have answered certain questions that you were still asking, or that's how it works. Or you could have answers the question that I was still asking. Okay, well, yeah, yeah, that's a pretty, yeah. Well, What if I said to you, Felix, you know, when you take a trip to your local beach next time and you enjoy the sort of the bounty of nature, you know, you get a good feeling about all of that. What if I said to you that you were enjoying the product of a destructive process, of a taking away from nature and a natural um, reality? How would you feel about that? Because that's literally what I think is happening. This is literally what I think is going on. The earth is of by its nature a very different animal than what we view as its true nature or its true natural state. I think we live in a broken system, and what we have accepted as natural is far from natural indeed. You know, um, I picture an earth without the oceans, right? I am picturing eternal twilight with just basking energies. I picture no restriction. I picture, um, all manner of abilities. Um, and this is the natural state. So for me, this is an unnatural state. All right, the pollution. Okay, well, mm, well, looks pretty clean where I'm at, right? What do we mean by pollution? Yeah, I know. There's many different questions. The whole system is fucked. The whole everything's wrong. But in one sense, um, I think we're in a transition period, and yeah, I don't know what to say about pollution. I mean, the streets have never been cleaner in some sense. But again, it's when you have a fixed idea of what is natural and what is normal, without possibly considering that well, it might be anything but, because normal is described as the initial sort of term, the initial condition. um, yeah, I think we're living but in an anything but normal situation. So to get back to what, if you say we live in a sort of a polluted world, well, to get back to what are you looking towards? A dream from childhood, a perfect image formed in a happier time. I don't know. It's a tough one, right? It's a tough one. The one thing I do have faith in, Felix, is that everything is in control. Yeah, the highest has everything in control. So whatever we're experiencing now is illusory for the most part. We give it life in terms of our beliefs. An external reality is projected onto us, and we give it reality, as I say, according to the strength of our convictions and the trust that we place in the source. I mean, not to say anything, but I saw your Christmas video when you were on the sleigh, going down the hill. And I know you live on sort of an open land there or whatever. It's not too intensely packed in. So yeah, well, I mean, what do we mean by pollution ultimately? And your idea of what you mean by pollution might differ from mine. It's one of those things, right? I don't know. And if we're not in possession of the greater picture, the greater story, the greater context, it would be foolhardy to rush to judgment. That's what I honestly, Felix, I'm feeling that more and more these days, especially with such a compressed view of history. Martin Leakey is doing a lot of work, and he's putting nose flooded 700 years ago. I left a comment and I said, Martin, you're honing in. When you get to 420 years ago next year, you'll be definitely closer to the mark. He's making allowances for the existence of Leonardo da Vinci, um, Henry VIII, Elizabeth I. I say these people didn't exist. They're part of a construct, and yeah, this is how up close and personal it is. And in one sense, it's empowering, right? In another sense, it's absolutely discombobulating. Say hi to Daniel Riza, who says he feels like a crazy mofo dodo tonight. Okay, that's cool, man. I don't know what you're going to do with that feeling. Okay, so what I'll do is let me just put on a little bit more music, and then I'll just shut down shop after I have a little cigarette. Okay, I'll put on this one. Let me just. Oh gosh, look what we have here. Let's have a look.
Pastor Jason Cooley here with OPBC Online, a ministry of Old Paths Baptist Church in Northfield, Minnesota. And I am here with Brother Jim again. How you doing, Brother Jim?
Good, brother. How you doing?
I am doing great. And we are going to take a break from our AI series for a little while here. We're going to pick back up on that AI series, though. We've got some other ideas and some other things that we want to bring to you about that. But right now, we see a pressing matter that really needs to be dealt with, that almost like we're being harassed with, like nonstop. And, you know, we're going to deal with this issue of the flat earth. And, Brother Jim, how many times do you hear about this a day, probably?
More than once.
Yes, every day. I mean, every day we hear about the flat earth. Every day we hear about something about flat earth. Something about flat earth. And what do you believe in flat earth? And I've had people send me videos and videos and videos and memes and fancy memes and fancier memes and other memes and me memes. I mean, so many on that it's like, okay. And then people ask me, what do you believe about the flat earth? And I put out a video a few days ago just dealing with some of the comments that have been made to me about the flat earth. And, you know, I had some people get upset about it. And they got upset because I just used some of their comments and repeated them. They didn't like that. So what they were asking for was a scriptural answer to the flat earth. And my answer, our answer at Old Paths Baptist Church, is this concerning the flat earth. Geocentricity is the biblical answer to the flat earth fable.
Amen.
And that's exactly the position that we hold here. We are going to explain to you today the geocentric model that we believe, and then we're going to explain to you why we do not hold to a flat earth, and explain all of the terms that flat earthers, or most of the terms that flat earthers use. But we are going to use the Bible to define the Bible.
Okay, no thanks, Jason. Thank you for that, but no thanks. We will give the Bible a miss for the minute. Geocentric Earth still has to account for curvature, right? And this is not what we experience. So this is not what's going on. This is another layer attached to the Bible. The same people behind the Bible have everything covered, all the different layers. So we got to make our way through the layers and come out the other side. These people are, look what I'm looking now. Can you see? Hang on. Share it again. I'm going to go shortly as well. So that's just the screen you were looking at. That was just a video play over. Look at Donnie's jumper here. The H. Well, they're just talking about the H. He's holding his hands together as well. I don't know anything about this guy otherwise. But he's not a flat earther, but he is a denier of science. And I suppose this is the battleground that's been prepared for us as well. So we have to be aware of all these pitfalls. Honestly, this is a personal journey. So whatever you may or may not be aware of, I don't know. You openly came along, Felix, and said that you were not an ex-member, but a member at one time of the Eastern Star. And it doesn't matter. I mean, the Eastern Star is the sun, right? The B East is the sun. The beast number of the sun is 666. 666 and G is encoded. The reason is 666. Well, look at the G and how it's constructed. We have three separate movements: a circular movement, a vertical movement, horizontal movement. This describes, for me, three separate movements of the sun. The sun is on a floating island, and there's a giant whirlpool at the north center. And again, we live in a broken system. That's why the G is inserted, an imposer, and has to go, and that equates with L. L equates, or L describes time and how time as we know it, time, the great destroyer, came into existence because of this destruction in the first place. I actually think that whatever that was the source cause of the destruction The earth was destroyed by fire, and the waters inundated, and yeah, put out the fires. So whether one was a consequence of the other, who knows? Yep, interesting there with the H. So that tells you he wore this jacket purposefully. How many views? I don't know who this guy is. I really don't. And this is probably just a mirror. So these guys would have had many in the Christian sort of flock to aim their preaching at. Even if you look at this is where the A comes in as well, and the D on top. If you look at the shape of his body, it comes to a pinnacle. The very pinnacle is the very top of his head. This is literally where we have to aim for when we do set up this vibration. And yeah, this tells me here that this guy is encoded. Journalism did one of his shows, and he had a little icon-y thing set up in the corner, and I pointed out how it was encoding 88. And lo and behold, the very next show, it was the same background, but that little patch in the corner, that little icon in the corner was missing. So again, journalism is playing his part, acting his act, I suppose. So let me just go back into chat, and then I'll call it quits. Okay, I don't mean anything by that, Felix. If people are prone to delving deeper into things, and there are groups of people, it's like a book club in a sense, right? I think in one sense, the more we come to know, the more humbler we become. What do you reckon? More value we see in everything, and more so in everyone, right? Especially everyone outside ourselves, because we can identify our own faults and our own shortcomings better than anybody else. No one better for the job, you know. So yeah, I do think the Eastern Star is the beast. And yeah, the negative connotation is all associated with the sun itself as we perceive it, resulting as an effect, resulting from a great destruction. So in that sense, it's not a good thing. Anything we accept as normal or natural, the chances are it's unnatural. Felix, this is what I was talking about. A trip down to the beach and being bathing in the hot sun and the cool waters. This is what we've accepted as being normal, good, positive, you know, when in actual fact, these conditions are as a result of a incomprehensible destructive process, as I see it. So, you know, it's against that backdrop. Then I certainly ask all the questions that I have to ask. And, well, as I say again, the dodo was discovered in 1598, or was said to be discovered in 1598 for good reason. When you find out that the dodo never existed, and there's a different significance to what we've been told. And, yeah, again, everything connects. And everyone is on their own path towards making all those connections. I was just thinking, I wrote down Adolf Hitler, 420, one ball, Einstein, monolith. So something else has been encoded within the story of Hitler. But yeah, ADH is contained within Hitler. Eric Dubay sings the praises of Hitler. I did indeed myself. You know, everything being the reverse of what's fed to us is truth. But yeah, the fact that he contains the ADH, that tells me that there's a whole and a core truth associated with the man. Jesus doesn't contain the ADH, right? So just something to think about. And yeah, thanks. Thanks for tuning in. I know, Felix. You just say local politics, trying to get fluoride. Yeah, that's what I mean. We have to act at a local level, but I suppose that's how we live, isn't it? Locally, but internally, then there are all the deeper questions. These are all things sent to test us in terms of physically or mentally, emotionally. But yeah, there are deeper questions to be asked. And because we're not privy to the greater story, I guess the best we can hope for is to follow our hearts. And if that's in your heart, to reject and object to all of that. Absolutely, of course. And of course, I did it myself. I went down to the local water engineer, and in spite of people calling me a liar, I do actually have a mechanical engineering degree. I went down to the local water engineer in Ennis and Clare, west coast of Ireland, when I lived there, and asked him in a forthright way. I wanted to know why he was poisoning my child by putting fluoride in the water. And his answer was, Felix, and I'm sure you've heard me say this before, he knew he was poisoning my child by putting fluoride in the water, but he had to because the government said so and it was the law. And he listed, I think it was 0.4 to 0.7 milligrams per liter. So I made a statement to the police. This is an admission of knowingly causing harm, whatever legality it would come under. And I made a statement, but I knew it was getting nowhere because they were going to report that the people who were telling the engineer to put the fluoride in the water in the first place. And indeed, it came to nothing. And the one lonely aspect of all of this is there's no one to appeal to. There's no one to appeal to. And, well, this is where this realization must come, I suppose, that we are the ultimate authority ourselves. We've been acting our part in the form of, in their world, in their wonderland, a legal name, a fiction. But we no longer are a fiction. And I should suggest, Felix, I don't know in terms of what long-term plan or view you have for your life. I don't certainly have long-term plan or view for my life, but if you are along that path, or you visit yourself along the path, and of course you have beautiful grandchildren as well, well, try being yourself as opposed to acting as the legal name, and see what sort of differences you can make. You are a queen, Felix just says I'm king, in the true and real sense. And yeah, all of these other characters or actors or players take a vow of subservience to none other but you. So it's maybe only when you can realize your true strength, your true power. Okay, you can see some of these things that you might otherwise not experience. Anyway, I better call it a day there and say thanks very much for tuning in. A few things talked about, a couple of realizations, so I'm happy with that. One verse here is pretty late. Don't be disturbing anyone too much. So thanks very much, and see you next time. Oh, of all the money that e'er I spent in good company. And all the harm that e'er I did, alas, it was to none but me. No, one to memory now I can't recall. So fell to me the parting glass, good night, and joy be with you all. Thank you, friends. Love you, Steve.